Chapter 8. Ji Mingming said, "You're right about that. Abilities have to be used frequently in order to become more proficient. As the thundercloud force is consumed and recovered, it's also a kind of cultivation process. However, our main cultivation is still carried out through meditation. In the process of meditation, you need to use your mind to direct the thundercloud force that you possess to help the ability in your bloodline to combine with the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, and then be absorbed by your body. We call this one round of cultivation one cloud cycle, also known as small cloud cycle, and every 49 cloud cycles is known as big cloud cycle. Generally speaking, when we cultivate, we have to cultivate at least one big cloud cycle to be considered a stage. The cultivation method differs from person to person. You're Kiran, and because of Kiran's bloodline, many of your hidden meridians are different from ordinary people. These meridians are known as the 8 extraordinary meridians. The thundercloud force circulates in these meridians, and the place where the thundercloud force is stored is the Sea of Breath acupoint on your lower abdomen and the linked eye acupoint on your back. As she spoke, she walked in front of Chi-Yu and tapped on his lower abdomen before patting his back lightly. Chi-Yu instantly felt 2 warm currents condensing at the places where Ming Ming patted, and he quickly memorized these 2 locations. Right now, he was still in the excited stage of thirsting for power. Once he was interested, he would still be very focused. Remember these 2 places. In the process of cultivation, the linked eye is the starting point, and the Sea of Breath is the ending point. These are the 2 most important meridians, and the 8 extraordinary meridians that our thundercloud force circulates are different from ordinary people's understanding of meridians. Ming Ming took out a map from her luggage and raised her hand. Suddenly, all kinds of complicated meridians, a total of 8, appeared in front of Chi-Yu. When Chi-Yu saw the densely packed meridians and their names, he immediately felt a headache. Teacher Chicken, I'm a little sleepy. Why don't we talk about it tomorrow? Isn't this a little too much? Are there any easier cultivation methods? Ji Mingming sternly said, Of course not. You have to know that these acupuncture points are very important during cultivation. If there's even the slightest mistake, it might bring unimaginable damage to you. Therefore, the first step you have to do is to firmly memorize these acupuncture points. Not only do you have to remember their names, but you also have to remember their locations. Moreover, you have to identify the acupuncture points accurately. Only then can we begin the next step of cultivation. If you don't remember the acupuncture points, you won't be able to cultivate because the chant of the ascending Qilin technique comes from the acupuncture points. For example, if I say Qi Si light drum, Ling Tai suction, Guanzhong drainage, can you understand? Chi-Yu smiled bitterly. So cultivation is so troublesome. I don't know if it's worth it if I put in so much effort just to woo a girl. Ji Mingming's almond-shaped eyes widened. What did you say? Don't tell me you cultivate to. Seeing that Ming Ming was angry, Chi-Yu hurriedly changed his words. No, of course not. I'm doing it to protect the great cause of the East. Although he said that, he was thinking in his heart that it was also to promote the cause of the unity of the beauties in various cities, and even the whole world. Ji Mingming snorted. The 8 extraordinary meridians have a total of 8 meridians and more than 100 acupuncture points. I don't have high requirements for you. You just have to memorize the acupuncture points of one meridian every day. However, when you memorize another meridian tomorrow, don't forget today's meridian. I'll start guiding you in your cultivation now. You have to understand the specific names and locations of each meridian. Today is the Heel meridian. We'll start now. If you can't remember it clearly, don't even think about sleeping today. Just as Chi-Yu was about to complain, Ji Mingming had already pointed a finger at his chest. Her hands were like blooming orchids, moving faster and faster in front and behind him. Instantly, streams of heat condensed into balls. More than 10 balls of air instantly appeared where she had pointed. Ji Mingming said, You should be able to feel that the places I have pointed are warm. These are the acupuncture points that you have to memorize today. They are on your body now. Start memorizing them. I'll sleep for a while. I'll test you when I wake up." With the exact location, it saved him the trouble of identifying the acupuncture point. Memorizing a meridian was indeed not difficult. Of course, this was only what she thought. The night passed quickly. The anticipated erotic scene naturally didn't appear. However, the next morning, Chi-Yu had 2 huge dark circles under his eyes. When he first started memorizing the acupuncture points, he didn't think much of it. When he saw Ming Ming sitting at the side and meditating, he dozed off while memorizing. However, Ming Ming only slept for half an hour before she woke up to check. In the end, Chi-Yu didn't even remember the name of one acupuncture point. One could imagine that the poor Chi-Yu's memory had always been very poor. Under Ming Ming's coercion, he used an entire night to finally memorize all the acupuncture points of the unveil meridian. If a person's body was continuously poked by someone's fingers at more than 10 places on his body, and he would shout out a name every time he was poked, anyone would probably be able to memorize it easily. Rubbing the sore spots on his body, Chi-Yu felt as if his body was falling apart. "Ming Ming, I've memorized it now. I can sleep now, right? I can't do it anymore." Ming Ming smiled and said, "How can that be? You're the Ink Kirin with an extremely strong recovery ability. Not sleeping for a night is nothing. It should be daybreak outside now, and it's time for us to leave this place. Let's go." Chi-Yu's eyes widened. "No way we're leaving now? My great aunt, please spare me. I want to sleep." Ming Ming clapped her hands and said, "It doesn't matter. You can sleep, but my hands have always been itchy. If I poke your unveil meridian a few more times while you sleep, don't blame me. I surrender. Let's go. When we find a place to stay, you have to let me sleep." Ming Ming pulled up her luggage and said with a smile, "All right, let's go. I'm not that unreasonable. It's because of you that I don't want to stay in this place for another minute. What's the smell here? You're always smoking, I'm going to smoke you to death." Chi-Yu got up with a bitter smile and simply packed his things. He really had nothing to bring. He originally wanted to take a few magazines and old clothes, but when Ming Ming smelled the smell on his clothes, she made him give up. As for what to wear in the future, Ming Ming said that these old clothes were bought by her, and she would be responsible for the new clothes in the future as compensation to Chi-Yu. Only then did Chi-Yu follow her out of the basement, feeling relaxed. Bathing in the sunlight, Ming Ming put her luggage aside and did some simple exercises. Breathing in the fresh air, she immediately felt much more comfortable. This simple action of hers had scared Chi-Yu to death. If it was anyone else, if they suddenly saw a beautiful woman in front of them raise her leg high and stick the tip of her foot out of her shoulder, they would probably be frightened. Ming Ming's body seemed to have no bones. Every joint was extremely soft. In her eyes, it was not big, but in Chi-Yu's eyes, it was more exaggerated than an acrobat's. I don't know you. The Earth is very dangerous. Go back to Mars," Chi-Yu said as he hurried to the side. Ming Ming looked back at him, her beautiful eyes sparkling. "Don't be surprised. This is nothing. Do you think it's so easy to be the Zodiac guardian god? Don't worry, in the future you have to exercise often. You always smoke, and your body is worse than your peers." Chi-Yu was unconvinced as he retorted, "Who said that? There aren't many people my age who can beat me." Ming Ming stuck out her tongue and said, "Don't disgust me. What's the point of fighting?" Just when Chi-Yu was about to refute, his eyes suddenly froze and his face became cold. His body naturally exuded a trace of cold aura, and he took a few steps to Ming Ming's side. Ming Ming was shocked by his appearance. Just when she thought he was angry, she heard Chi-Yu's voice. "Get out of here quickly. Don't worry about me. These guys are coming for me." Looking back, Ming Ming suddenly understood the reason for Chi-Yu's change. More than 20 youths of 18 or 19 years old were encircling them in a semicircle. Each of them held a wooden stick in their hand. Looking at their strange expressions, it was obvious that they were up to no good. The leader was a handsome young man. The weather was very warm, but he wore a hat on his head. He looked at Chi-Yu with eyes that were almost spitting fire. Ji Ming was looking at these people when she heard Chi-Yu say anxiously, "Hurry up and leave. These guys are not good people. Aren't you afraid of being raped and killed by them?" Ji Ming laughed. "So you still have the heart of a hero to save a beauty. Master Zagru is right. You are not useless." Chi-Yu said impatiently, "Nonsense. You are my friend. Do you think I will let you be implicated by me? Hurry up and leave, or it will be too late." As he said that, his eyes were already looking around for weapons that could be used. Unfortunately, the entrance of the community was very clean. Not to mention bricks, there was not even a big stone. Chi-Yu's brick-breaking martial art was indeed very good. However, even if he was given a cart of bricks, he was afraid that he would not be able to do anything. There were more than 20 people in front of him, and from the looks of it, they were definitely not ordinary hooligans. Their cold eyes made Chi-Yu feel a chill down his spine. "Yan Xiaoi, how did you know that I was back?" As Chi-Yu said that, he strode forward. As he walked, he waved his right hand behind him, indicating for Ji Ming to leave quickly. Yan Xiaoi looked to the side. Following his gaze, Chi-Yu suddenly saw a person. It was Brotherly, who he and Ji Ming met last night. Brotherly said with some fear, "Chi-Yu, it's not that I want to do this, but they said that if I don't inform them that you are back, they will break my legs. You also know that I have nothing now. I can only run a small business, so. Chi-Yu said coldly, "You are not my brother. Don't talk nonsense. When I was in trouble, you gave me food. From now on, we do not owe each other anything. Yan Xiaoi, I know that you have been looking for me. Now that I am standing here, what do you want to do?" Yan Xiaoi's eyes became fierce. "Remember what you said to me last time. Today, I will return it to you. I don't want to do anything. I just want you to know why the flowers are so red. Brothers, go and cripple this guy. If anything happens, I will take responsibility." As he said that, he raised the stick in his hand and pointed it at Chi-Yu. Chi-Yu's expression changed slightly. If it was any other time, he would have turned around and run. He had always been very good at escaping. However, he could not run now because he did not know if Ming had already run far away. Since he was born, he had not had many true friends. Just yesterday, he actually had a beautiful woman as a friend. At this moment, as a man, he would definitely not retreat. After all, his body was burning with Kiran's blood. Courage had always been one of the things that he did not lack. More than 20 people moved at the same time. In a big country like the Yanhuang Republic, more than 20 people were too insignificant. However, at this moment, in front of Chi-Yu, more than 20 people brought about a momentum that could topple the mountains and overturn the seas. There were continuous screams, but they did not belong to Chi-Yu. For some unknown reason, when Yan Xiaoi's people started to attack, the people in front fell inexplicably, and immediately dragged the people behind them down. F***CK, is this the power of the legendary auspicious sign? It's not the new year yet, so you don't have to be so polite. Dispense with the formalities. At this moment, Chi-Yu did not forget to ridicule the group of enemies in front of him. Yan Xiaoi walked past his subordinates and rushed towards Chi-Yu with his stick. Since young, he had never suffered such a big loss like the last time. It could be said that he hated Chi-Yu to the core. From Nana, he had already found out about Chi-Yu's background. With his identity and family background, it was not too difficult for him to make a person like Chi-Yu disappear from the world. At this moment, a few vans were parked not far away. As long as he defeated Chi-Yu, he would immediately bring his subordinates to a different place to deal with this ruffian who had beaten him until he had a concussion. Chi-Yu had never been a sitting duck. Although he knew that he could not defeat his opponent, he was still prepared to fight with his life. Even if he could only defeat one person, it would be enough. Just as Qi Yu was about to rush forward and fight with Yan Xiaoyi, an angelic voice suddenly sounded. "Let me do it." Who said that a hero must save a beauty? A beauty can also save a ruffian. Qi Yu only felt a strong force on her shoulder. Her body subconsciously fell back a few steps. Her vision blurred, and a slim figure had already flown past her. Yes, it was completely like she was flying. Almost in a flash, the white figure had already arrived in front of Yan Xiaoyi. Yan Xiaoyi's attention was originally on Qi Yu. When he suddenly saw someone rushing towards him, he immediately chopped down with his stick without hesitation. After all, he had practiced martial arts for a few years, and he still had the basic skills. There was a soft crack, but it was not the sound of bones breaking. The stick in Yan Xiaoyi's hand had already been broken into two. Then, before he could clearly see the appearance of his attacker, his nose had already intimately touched the opponent's elbow. A scream that did not sound like that of a human being rang out. Yan Xiaoyi's body was actually hit and sent flying. He fell backwards, instantly crushing the two people who came with him. The person who had rushed forward past Qi Yu was Ji Mingming. Her movements were not fancy, and there was nothing unnecessary. She only made 2 movements against Yan Xiaoyi. She raised her left hand, blocked the stick, and leaned forward. Her right elbow had already hit Yan Xiaoyi and sent him flying. Then, Ji Mingming's body seemed to become illusory, and directly cut into the group of more than 20 people. She mostly used her arms. Her arms seemed to be made of iron, and any wooden stick that came into contact with them would immediately break. Close combat was supposed to be very dangerous, but with her lightning-fast footsteps, her opponent couldn't even touch a single hair on her head. The basic sound of hands and flesh was constantly heard. When Qi Yu realized it, the battle was completely over. Ji Mingming clapped her hands and returned to Qi Yu's side. She smiled and said, "Okay, we can go now. Don't worry, I know how to control my strength. They only broke a few bones at most." Qi Yu looked at Ji Mingming as if he was looking at a dinosaur. "Mingming, I was wrong. Although the Earth is very dangerous, as a Martian, you are more dangerous to the Earth." Right now, he was extremely glad that he did not offend the beauty in front of him. Otherwise, he was afraid that he would end up like these people lying on the ground. Although he had thought that Ji Mingming had a certain level of ability, he had never thought that such a delicate beauty like her would be able to easily defeat over 20 young men with just a wave of her hand. Furthermore, she seemed to be very relaxed and there was not even a single drop of sweat on her face. If she had done the same to him when he was teasing her, then... At the thought of this, Qi Yu couldn't help but feel a little scared and embarrassed. He couldn't accept the fact that a beauty had to help him deal with the trouble he had caused. "That mouth of yours. It was indeed too poor. Protecting you is my responsibility. Have you forgotten? Kirin, you ruffian." Mingming said the last 4 words very softly. Only Qi Yu could hear it. Qi Yu asked, "Is this the effect of the ascending cloud technique?" Ji Mingming smiled and said, "This is only the surface. The real ability of our Zodiac Guardian can't be revealed in front of ordinary people." Qi Yu's eyes emitted a scorching light. "Okay, Mingming, I have decided. From today onwards, I will memorize the acupoints of 2 meridians with you every day. I will not be lazy anymore." Out of a man's pride, he did not want to lose to a woman. Ji Mingming smiled and said, "Then I will wait and see. Don't let me down." Qi Yu nodded and walked to Yan Xiaoyi's side. At this time, Yan Xiaoyi seemed to be in a worse state than before. His nose bridge was obviously broken and his face was covered in blood. Qi Yu pretended to be regretful and said, "You finally understand why the flowers are so red this time. Sigh, I am too lazy to argue with people like you. Go back and complain to your father, little kid from kindergarten." After saying that, he did not look at Yan Xiaoyi and turned to leave with Ji Mingming. Chi Yu's words made him feel worse than killing Yin Xiaoyi. His resentful eyes followed the two of them. When he got up from the ground, he had already made a decision in his heart. Ming Ming, where are you taking me? Do you really want me to go back to your home? Ji Ming Ming got on the taxi and gave him an address. Of course not. It is not suitable for you to go to my home. It is not convenient for you to cultivate. I will settle you down first and then go home to prepare for school. There are still about 2 months before school starts. You should take advantage of this time to practice. Do you remember that Master Zagru once told you that he found 3 Zodiac guardians? I am just one of them. Now I am going to take you to see the most outstanding genius of our generation of Zodiac guardians. Dragon. Ji Ming Ming's voice condensed into a line and entered Chi Yu's ears. She was not afraid that the driver in the front would hear it. Dragon? Is he very strong? Chi Yu asked curiously. Ji Ming Ming nodded without hesitation and said, Of course. Dragon is the strongest among the 12 Zodiac animals. He has many kinds of abilities and is second only to Kirin in all aspects. However, his cultivation speed is far beyond that of Kirin. Because Kirin is an auspicious sign, he can be said to be the leader of the 12 Zodiac animals. Dragon is the leader of the 12 Zodiac animals and is the strongest one. Moreover, the Zodiac dragon in our area is a genius. At the age of 23, he has already cultivated to the 5th cloud. This kind of cultivation speed is unprecedented in history. You should know that it takes at least 5 to 10 years for a Zodiac animal to break through the bottleneck from the 3rd cloud to the 4th cloud. It is already very good for some Zodiac animals to reach the 5th cloud in their entire life. The dragon of the 5th cloud is absolutely terrifying. Don't talk to dragon like how you talk to me. Otherwise, I can't help you. Chi Yu said disapprovingly. Am I not the king of the Zodiac animals? Could it be that he can bite me? Ji Ming Ming covered her mouth and chuckled. She said, Dragon is a very old-fashioned person. He hates people like you the most. Anyway, I have reminded you that I will ask Dragon to arrange your residence and cultivation place. You better not offend Dragon. Otherwise, you will know the consequences. Dragon is not as easy to talk to as Master Zagru. The taxi followed Ji Ming Ming's instructions and drove all the way east. They passed by the most prosperous area of the capital and looked at the various strange and modern buildings around him. Chi Yu could not help but have a strange feeling in his heart. Although this trip to Tibet was not short, he only had a simple understanding of Tibet. After all, he had slept for most of the month. However, he knew that his fate had completely changed because of this trip to Tibet. Chi Yu had never brought a watch with him. After driving for about an hour, they finally arrived at their destination. There were a large number of villas in the east of the capital. This was a place where the rich gathered, especially by the warm Jade River, which was relatively close to the airport. There were many villas and the beautiful scenery was enough to tempt the rich. However, the place that Ji Ming Ming brought Chi Yu to was not a villa. From the outside they could not see what it looked like. They could only see a 3-meter-tall wall made of green brick. There were also sharp iron frames on the wall, like long spears standing tall. The area of the wall was very wide, and the green wall looked a little simple and unadorned. This can't be a concentration camp, right? Chi Yu said with a smirk. Ji Ming Ming rolled her eyes at him and said, What do you think? This is the place of the dragon, and it will also be the place where you will live in the future. As they spoke, the two of them paid the bill and got out of the car, then walked towards the gate. The gate was a bit taller than the wall, and the iron branches that were as thick as a human arm looked very sturdy. Ji Ming Ming went straight to the communication system beside the door and pressed a few buttons. With a buzzing sound, the door quietly opened to both sides. Ji Ming Ming gestured to Chi Yu and took the lead to walk into the courtyard. As soon as they entered the gate, a gust of fresh air hit their faces. The first thing that Chi Yu saw was a wide lawn. It felt like a golf course. There were some scattered trees on the lawn, and the size seemed to be no smaller than a golf course. Surrounded by the green, there was a lake that was about thousands of square meters, rippling in the breeze. There was a small pavilion in the middle of the lake, which looked a little more elegant. The ground in the center led to the middle of the courtyard, where there was a huge villa. Chi-Yu could only use the word huge to describe this villa. He had never seen a villa of such a grand scale. It felt like a castle without a steeple. Perhaps even a star-rated hotel might not be as big as this. It's beautiful, isn't it? Dragons have good taste, but dragons don't like flowers. So, this place is all green, and only this villa is white. There is also a large swimming pool on the top floor of the villa. Can a Zodiac guardian god be so rich? Does that mean I can take it too? Chi-Yu looked at the huge villa in astonishment and sighed. Of course not. These were all earned by the dragon's own struggles, not given to him by others. If you want to achieve something, you have to work hard. The two walked along the central path that was 5 meters wide toward the direction of the villa. When they were about 50 meters away from the villa, the door in the center of the villa opened, and a person walked out from inside. Sister Long, Ji Ming shouted excitedly and ran over, leaving Chi-Yu behind. It was a woman who walked out of the door. Ming was not short, but she was still half a head taller. She was at least 1.78 meters tall. Even Chi-Yu, who had grown a little taller after waking up, could not help but feel ashamed when he looked at this tall woman. She wore a flawless white dress, her long black hair was tied up on her head, and she wore a pair of black-rimmed glasses. This woman who walked out of the villa was more like a white-collar beauty. Her skin was very white, and the fullness in front of her chest was not something a young girl like Ming could compare with. The dress only reached her knees, revealing a pair of slender and round calves. From the moment she appeared, her every movement looked so elegant. The dragon was a woman? The terrifying dragon that Ming described was actually a woman? Chi-Yu quickly touched his nose to make sure that there was no nosebleed. Because of the black-rimmed glasses, he could not see the dragon's appearance very clearly. However, just from the outline, he could tell that she was a peerless beauty. Chi-Yu secretly classified this dragon beauty in his heart. This dragon beauty was definitely at the Xing level, or even a little higher. Even if she was not at the perfect level, she was not far from it. Chapter 9. Ming, didn't I tell you to call me Big Sister Ryue? Try not to mention the word dragon outside. The cold voice seemed to be emotionless, but the white-clothed beauty looked at Ji Ming with a very gentle gaze. Although she was only 5 years older than Ming-Ji, it looked like she was looking at her own child. Ming-Ji stuck out her tongue and said, I know, Big Sister Ryue. I just can't remember who asked you to be a dragon. The white-clothed beauty said indifferently, He is Kirin? Grandmaster has called me. Ming-Ji nodded. When she turned around and saw Chi-Yu's face that looked like a pig, she wanted to go up and slap him a few times. This guy actually completely forgot what she said. She hurriedly let go of the white-clothed beauty's hand and quickly ran to Chi-Yu's side. She gave him a look and said, Yes, Big Sister Ryue, he is Kirin. The white-clothed beauty nodded and said, All right, bring him in. After saying that, she just calmly looked at Chi-Yu and returned to the villa. You're courting death. Ming pinched Chi-Yu hard. Ah! Chi-Yu was in pain. The white-clothed beauty had already disappeared. Only then did he wake up, beautiful, really beautiful. Such a hot body, I don't know what it feels like to hug. Ming-Ji rolled her eyes. You might as well go die. You even dare to take liberties with Big Sister Ryue. I think you're not far from death. Big Sister Ryue is indeed a great beauty, but her temper is as hot as her body. I'm too lazy to care about you. In any case, you're on your own. Don't. Chi-Yu quickly grabbed Ming, who was about to turn around and leave, and said in a low voice, Ming, why didn't you tell me that dragon is a woman, and a beauty at that? Ji Ming said helplessly, Anyway, you must be careful. Sister Ryue is the CEO of a big company. She has always been known for her iron face. I once met a guy who wanted to pursue her. I don't know what Sister Ryue did, but that guy later lay in the hospital for 3 months. After that, he trembled all over when he saw a woman. Think about it yourself. Sister Ryue's full name is Hai Ryue. According to the Zodiac, you should be able to calculate how old she is. Let's go. Sister Ryue doesn't like to wait for people. She didn't really blame Chiyu. After a short period of contact, she already understood what kind of person Chiyu was. Although he was always flirting with women, he was the kind of person who didn't have the guts to do it. Moreover, he wasn't too bad. The two walked into the villa. As soon as they entered the door, they saw a huge hall. 2 servants in white clothes and black pants came over and handed a hot towel to each of them. They also took the luggage from Ji Mingming's hands. Chiyu wiped his face as he looked around. The decorations in the hall were completely white. A circle of 6 huge white marble pillars supported the center beam of the villa. The floor was paved with milky white marble. Together with the white fireplace at the side, it was very European style. In the center of the room, there was a dragon statue. It was a sparkling white 5-clawed dragon with a pair of sapphire dragon eyes. On one side of the hall, there were 4 3-seater sofas, forming a semi-arc. At this time, Hai Ryue was sitting on one of the sofas. She held a bright red drink in her hand. She drank it slowly as if she was drinking blood. The red drink formed a sharp contrast with her white clothes, adding a bit of elegance to the elegance. In the past, Chiyu couldn't even think of a villa of this level, let alone see it. Please take a seat. Hai Ryue's voice was very pleasant to listen to. However, that faint coldness made people feel a bit unapproachable. Chiyu and Ji Mingming sat on a sofa beside Hai Ryue. Mingming said, "Sister Ryue, we just returned to the capital. Chiyu's place is too bad. Let him stay here with you." Hai Ryue nodded and said, "I've already arranged it. I've also arranged the school that you're going to attend. Mingming, if you're willing, you can also stay here." Ji Mingming giggled and said, "It's okay. I haven't been home much these few years. I should go back to accompany my parents. However, I'll come back often. Sister Ryue, I'll leave him to you." Hai Ryue glanced at Chiyu and said, "Chiyu, male, 19 years old. He grew up in the Jingshan orphanage in the capital. He left the orphanage at the age of 14 to live on his own. He didn't graduate from junior high school and entered the society. He rented a basement in the Royal View district with social relief money. He usually idles around and belongs to the society. 1.5 months ago, he beat up the son of the city's police chief and ran to Tibet." Chiyu frowned slightly and said, "Miss, do you have a household registration?" Hai Ryue's eyes flashed coldly. "I don't want to hear the word miss again. Please call me by my name. I'm Hai Ryue." Chiyu sat on the sofa and said, "If I don't call you miss, should I call you mister? I'm not saying that you're that kind of Mississippi. Why are you so agitated? It seems that I'm the king of the Zodiac." Although Hai Ryue was a beauty, her cold feeling made Chiyu very uncomfortable. When he first met Mingming, although Mingming's attitude towards him wasn't very good, it wasn't like Hai Ryue's innate coldness. Hai Ryue said indifferently, "If you can beat me, I'll admit that you're the king of the Zodiac, and I'll be at your disposal. However, before that, you don't have the power to order me." Ji Mingming saw that the atmosphere was a little tense and quickly said, "Sister Ryue, in fact, Chiyu is still a very good person. He just came into contact with our world and needs time to adapt. You should accommodate him a little more." Hai Ryue said with a straight face, "In my dictionary, there's no such thing as accommodation. Right is right, wrong is wrong. Mingming, don't you want to go home? I think you should go. I'll send a car to send you. Go back and say hello to Uncle and Auntie for me. As for this person, I have my own arrangements. When school starts at the end of August, you can go to school together. Ji Ming Ming stuck out her tongue and looked at Chi Yu with pity. She stood up and said, "Then I'll go back first. Sister Ryue, I'll leave him to you." Hai Ryue made a gesture and immediately, a servant helped Ming Ming carry her luggage out of the door. Chi Yu stood up and sent Ming Ming to the door. Before Ming Ming left, she whispered to him, "You must remember what I said. Don't make Sister Ryue angry. Otherwise, you'll only be making things difficult for yourself. Sister Ryue will also teach you the ascending Qilin technique. Her teachings will definitely be better than mine." Chi Yu quietly pinched Ming Ming's waist and winked. "Come and see me when you have time. I'll be here, don't worry." After Ji Ming Ming left, the atmosphere in the hall seemed to become more solemn. Hai Ryue didn't know when there was something like a remote control in her hand. She pressed it twice and a minute later, an old man wearing a Chinese tang suit came down from upstairs. The green tang suit looked very harmonious on him. His snow-white hair showed his age, but his face was very ruddy and there were not many wrinkles. His back was straight and his eyes were bright and full of expression. "Miss, you were looking for me?" The old man walked to Hai Ryue's side and bowed respectfully. Hai Ryue stood up and her voice was obviously much softer. "Uncle Zhou, Mr. Qi will be living here in the future. Arrange a room for him, then find him a set of training clothes and bring him to my training room." "Yes, Mississippi." After Hai Ryue finished giving instructions, she didn't even look at Chi Yu and turned to go upstairs. Chi Yu curled his lips and thought to himself, "What are you so arrogant for? You just have some money, don't put on airs in front of me." Uncle Zhou walked a few steps to Chi Yu's side and said, "Mr. Qi, please follow me." Chi Yu smiled and said, "Hello, Uncle Zhou." At first glance, Uncle Zhou seemed to be a very strict person. Although he didn't look kind, Chi Yu always had a little more respect for the elders. Uncle Zhou took Chi Yu to a room on the second floor of the villa. The layout of the room was very similar to that of the hall. Everything needed was available. There was a simple small living room, next to the living room was a bathroom, and inside was a bedroom. The bed in the bedroom was very big, enough to sleep 3 people. The white bedding was brand new and spotless. For Chi Yu, who was used to living in a dog kennel, it was really a little uncomfortable. Throwing his small bag aside, Chi Yu directly threw himself on the bed, regardless of Uncle Zhou beside him. The bed was not very soft, but it was very elastic and very comfortable to lie on. After not sleeping for the whole night, Chi Yu suddenly felt tired. "Thank you, Uncle Zhou. This bed is very comfortable." Uncle Zhou acted as if he didn't hear Chi Yu's words and said, "This is called the Dragonfield Courtyard. Every morning at 7 o'clock, Mr. Qi can eat in the dining room on the second floor. Lunch is at 11:30 and dinner is at 6 o'clock. Food is only provided at these 3 times a day. Every morning from 7 to 8 o'clock, there will be servants to help you clean the room. If you need anything else, you can also find me. You are the first male guest that Miss has stayed with." Chi Yu turned over and lay on the bed. He looked at Uncle Zhou and said, "Then I should be very honored. Doesn't your Miss have a boyfriend?" Uncle Zhou shook his head and said, "I'm sorry, I can't talk about Mrs. Matters. Everyone here has to follow the rules. Mr. Qi, you are a guest, so you can be more relaxed. Mr. Qi, please wait for a moment. I will go get your training clothes for you." No, it's okay. I want to sleep for a while. I didn't sleep at all last night. Please tell your Mississippi. She can't not let me sleep." Chi Yu was too lazy to practice. Although Ming Ming's lightning-fast skills had shocked him, he was too lazy to practice with her when he thought of Hai Ryue's cold eyes. Uncle Zhou said, "That's not good. Mrs. Orders are always unquestionable." As he spoke, he had already walked out of the room. Chi Yu curled his lips. "No matter what orders you give, I will sleep. At worst, I will go back to my basement." After a while, Uncle Zhou came back with a set of simple training clothes in his hand. At this time, Chi Yu had entered a hazy state because he didn't sleep for the whole night. He didn't even know that Uncle Zhou had come in. Mr. Chi, you can get up. As he spoke, Uncle Zhou patted Chi Yu's shoulder gently. Chi Yu turned over and didn't respond. Uncle Zhou frowned and patted his shoulder again. This time, Chi Yu only felt a warm flow from his shoulder into his body. His hazy consciousness because of sleep suddenly woke up. Ah, Uncle Zhou, what are you doing? Uncle Zhou said, Mr. Chi, please follow me to the training room. Don't let Miss wait for too long. Chi Yu sat up and said, Uncle Zhou, you can call me by my name. My name is Chi Yu. Please tell your miss that I want to sleep. Uncle Zhou said, Mr. Chi, you should tell Miss yourself. I can't disobey Miss's orders. Please don't make things difficult for me, okay? Chi Yu had to sit up. He was just dissatisfied with Hai Ryue's attitude, but he didn't want to make things difficult for this Uncle Zhou. After all, in his opinion, he was just trying to make a living. Why should he make things difficult for him? Okay, I will go with you. However, you don't need to change the training clothes. Anyway, I don't plan to practice. Uncle Zhou, didn't I say that you can just call me by my name? There was a smile on Uncle Zhou's face and he said, It's not polite. I'll call you Mr. Zhou. Chi Yu's appearance was not ugly. He was very polite to him, so the old man couldn't help but have a good impression of him. Chi Yu got off the bed and said, It's not polite. How about this, as long as it's not in front of your miss, you can call me by my name. It's more comfortable. I've never been called Mr. before. Uncle Zhou, let's go. Uncle Zhou nodded and left the room with Chi Yu. They went directly to the 4th floor of the villa. There was only one door. Uncle Zhou went to the door and knocked a few times. Mr. Chi is here. Hai Ryue's cold voice came from the room. Let him in. Uncle Zhou nodded to Chi Yu. Chi Yu only heard a soft voice in his ear. Don't disobey Mississippi. It's better for you this way. After Uncle Zhou left, Chi Yu came to his senses. It turned out that this Uncle Zhou was also a hidden master. Ming Ming had also used his ability to condense sound into a line. However, Ming Ming couldn't condense the sound so fine and clear. He couldn't help but secretly rejoice that he didn't insist before. Otherwise, with Uncle Zhou's loyalty to Hai Ryue's orders, he might have used force to bring him here. Pushing the door and entering, Chi Yu saw a huge practice room. It was 2,000 or 3,000 square meters. The floor was covered with a layer of mat about 3 inches thick. The mat was not soft, but it was full of elasticity. The surrounding walls seemed to be covered with the same thing. The whole practice room looked very empty, and Hai Ryue was sitting cross-legged in the center of the practice room. At this time, Hai Ryue had changed again. The professional suit on her was gone. Instead, she was wearing a white practice suit like his. Her long hair was still tied up on her head, and she was still wearing black-rimmed glasses. Although the practice suit was loose, it couldn't hide her absolutely hot body. Hai Ryue watched Chi Yu walk into the practice room with his shoes on. She couldn't help but frown. You didn't change into your practice suit. Chi Yu shrugged his shoulders and said, I didn't sleep last night. Now I want to rest. I just came to tell you. I'm going back. After saying that, he turned around and left. Stop. Hai Ryue's voice became colder. However, Chi Yu seemed to not hear it. His hand had already opened the door of the practice room. Just as one of Chi Yu's feet stepped out of the practice room, he suddenly found that there was an extra hand on his shoulder. Then, he couldn't help but scream in fear. The next moment, he had already fallen heavily on the ground. This fall seemed to have broken all the bones in his body. There was no place that didn't hurt and he almost spat out blood. His whole body was twitching because of the sudden severe pain. He curled up together, and even his consciousness was a little blurred by this fall. With a bang, the door of the practice room was closed. Hai Ryue's cold voice sounded, You have to remember one thing. No one is allowed to go against what I said. It doesn't matter if you are Kirin or a ruffian. Now that you are in my territory, you have to listen to me. The pain subsided a little. Chi-Yu struggled to get up from the ground. Sneak attack? You have the final say in your territory. Then I'll leave. I never wanted to live under someone else's roof. If it wasn't for Ming Ming, I wouldn't have come at all. Ryues stood at the door. Do you think my Dragonfield courtyard is a place that you can come and go as you please? If you want to leave, you can. But if you beat me, no one will stop you. Chi-Yu's eyes flashed as he looked at Ryue. The beauty in front of him was no longer cute. It was the first time he had been hit by a woman. He snorted angrily. Fine. He fiercely rushed towards Ryue, his fists already raised. Ryue looked at him with disdain. She didn't move at all. When Chi-Yu was about 3 meters away from Ryue, he suddenly staggered and fell to the ground. Ryue was slightly stunned. Chi-Yu had already spread out his arms and used the momentum of his falling body to hug Ryue's legs. This move was something he had learned after many years of fighting. Once he hugged the opponent's legs, wrestling was always Chi-Yu's strength. Although Chi-Yu was a ruffian, he wasn't stupid. Ming Ming was already so strong, and this Ryue was even stronger than her. Naturally, he wouldn't be able to deal with her. Since that was the case, he could only use some despicable move. Seeing that her legs were right in front of him, Chi-Yu couldn't help but be overjoyed. As long as he hugged her legs, even if she was able to break him open, it would still be a great humiliation for such a virtuous woman. Then, his goal would be achieved. Just when he thought that he was about to succeed, Ryue didn't retreat but instead advanced. Her body suddenly moved forward and her left leg bent. Before Chi-Yu's arms could close, her knee was right on top of Chi-Yu's forehead. A huge force was transmitted, and his head was instantly lifted along with his body. At the same time, Ryue's left leg was lifted up, and the surface of her foot hit his chest. Chi-Yu only felt that he was suddenly flying, and he did a backflip in the air that he would never be able to do normally. His hands, which he had stretched out, were only grabbing air. Due to the huge force coming from his forehead, his neck felt like it was broken, and the sharp pain coming from his chest made him almost unable to breathe. This time, he didn't fall to the ground, but his flying body flew straight out after the backflip. He flew for 5 to 6 meters before landing on the ground, and the impact pushed him backward along the floor. A mouthful of blood gushed out of Chi-Yu's mouth, and it immediately stained the new clothes Zagru had given him. His vision blurred, and the sharp pain coming from his chest made Chi-Yu lose the strength to even get up. He opened his mouth wide, trying to breathe, but the burning pain in his chest made him suffocate. Ryue's cold voice rang out again. I heard that you're Ink Kirin. Ink Kirin was born with a superhuman self-healing ability. Do you know what happened to the successors of the Kirin bloodline in the past? It's precisely because they're too weak that they've become the targets of their enemies, which is why they've implicated the Zodiac guardian god. Since you're a black Qilin, then let me develop your self-healing potential. That way you won't cause us any trouble in the future. A domineering energy pulled Chi-Yu up from the ground, and Ryue's face grew larger and larger in front of Chi-Yu. At this moment, blood was flowing out of Chi-Yu's mouth and nose. Ryue said coldly, I don't care if you hate me. Hate me all you want. If you're even a little bit stronger than me, you can return it to me. At least, you'll be a powerhouse by then, but unfortunately, you're not one yet. Chi-Yu gasped for breath. You've decided to do this since the first time you saw me, Miss Tyrannosaurus Rex. Miss Tyrannosaurus Rex. His voice was stuttering, but his expression showed no sign of submission. Ryue said calmly, If you're willing to think that way, I won't deny it. Kirin is the king of the Zodiac, but you're not. You don't have the ability to be recognized by us. In order not to become a burden to us in the future, hellish training is suitable for you. At the very least, I'll turn you into an unkillable cockroach. As she said that, she lifted Chi-Yu's body with one hand. The world spun around him again, and Chi-Yu was thrown heavily to the ground. Chi-yu was on the verge of fainting from the intense pain that followed. At this time, an icy cold stream of air came from the top of his head, and Chi-yu's consciousness suddenly became much clearer than before he entered the training room. Ryua said calmly, "You must deeply feel this pain, only then can you better stimulate your potential." Chi-yu's eyes revealed a trace of resentment. Is this the legendary rice swinging? Ryua once again grabbed Chi-yu from the ground. Think what you want. I hope that today's pain will let you remember one thing: before you become stronger than me, my orders cannot be disobeyed. Bang! He was thrown again. This time, Ryua used a lot of strength, and Chi-yu's body was directly thrown more than 10 meters away, heavily hitting the wall and then slowly sliding down. No matter how elastic the floor and the wall cushions were, such a strong heavy blow was something that Chi-yu had never experienced before. Now he somewhat understood why Yan Xiaoi hated him so much. This kind of attack without any ability to resist not only hurt his body, but also his heart. This was an insult. The biggest insult a woman could give to a man was naturally to doubt a man's sexual ability. Now, Chi-yu clearly had this kind of feeling. In front of Ryua, he was like a small boat in the raging waves, not to mention resisting. Even standing up was a luxury. Tyrannosaurus Rex's abuse really began. Ryua only used one hand, back and forth she grabbed Chi-yu, and then threw him again. Except for the time when Chi-yu attacked her, she did not directly hit Chi-yu's body again. Chi-yu in her hands was really like a big sack, being thrown here and there. Blood couldn't help but stain the front of Chi-yu's own clothes, at the same time, also stain the floor and the wall cushions. At this time seemed to be stretched out infinitely. Chi-yu wanted to choose to be unconscious, but Ryua did not give him this opportunity. Every time she threw him, Ryua would pause for a moment, and then again attack. Her strength seemed to be endless. She did not know what fatigue was. A layer of faint black light gradually appeared on Chi-yu's body. He could not even let out a scream now, except that he was still conscious. He could only let Ryua continue to attack him. Only when he faced this female Tyrannosaurus Rex alone, Chi-yu understood why Ji Ming and Uncle Zhou wanted to warn him. The female Tyrannosaurus Rex's violent impulses almost never stopped. Ryua finally stopped. Blood was scattered everywhere on the floor. Chi-yu's body was lying in the corner. His whole body was covered in blood. The rise and fall of his chest proved that he was still alive. Ryua's expression was still so cold. She took out her communicator. "Uncle Zhou, please come to my training room." Putting away the communicator, she walked in front of Chi-yu and stopped, squatting beside him, her hands separately pressed on various parts of his body. She said indifferently, "Today is an hour, the next time will be in 3 days. The next time, the time will be increased by 10 minutes. Chi-yu looked at her with dull and lifeless eyes. His gaze at this time was somewhat similar to Ryua's. There was no emotion in it. The feeling of bullying the weak is very satisfying, right? Ryua looked into his eyes. "What do you think? I have at least 100 ways to deal with a little hooligan like you. There is one thing I can be sure of: you are still a man. At least in this hour, you did not beg me for mercy, otherwise, I will look down on you even more. If you are willing to surrender to me now, maybe I will let you rest for 2 more days." "Surrender? Do you think I will? You can break my body, but you can't break my spirit. The feeling of loosening my muscles and bones is really satisfying, but I think, if I am grabbing those 2 things on your chest, it will be even more satisfying." At this time, not only did Chi-yu's voice not surrender, but there was a hint of mockery in it. Indeed, he could not feel the pain now. When the pain reached a certain level, his body had already become numb. "It seems that today I still went too easy on you." Ryua's voice seemed to be able to freeze the air. If not because she knew that Chi-yu's body could not take any more blows, she was afraid that she would have already attacked again. Chi-yu forced a smile, but his eyes flashed with a cold light. "I, Chi-yu, swear on my own blood, one day, I will make Ryua my female slave." Ryue had never felt fear since she was young, but when she saw the smiling Chi-Yu say these words, she suddenly felt a chill run down her spine. Chi-Yu's tone was not firm, because his body had suffered a blow. His voice was a little hoarse. But she did not know why, but Ryue could deeply feel that Chi-Yu's words were not just a threat. The door opened and Uncle Zhou walked in from outside. When he saw the bloodstains on the floor, he could not help but jump in fright. "Miss, this?" Ryue stood up and walked out of the door. "It's nothing, I was just practicing with Mr. Chi. Send him back to his room, don't use any medicine, just provide him with food and let him recover on his own." After Ryue left, Chi-Yu's breathing became even heavier, his lifeless eyes slowly closed, and his chest constantly rose and fell. Uncle Zhou quickly walked to Chi-Yu's side, took his wrist pulse, and used his other hand to feel his body. Chi-Yu had indeed lost a lot of blood, and at this time, his pulse was very weak. Uncle Zhou sighed. "Why did you do this?" Chi-Yu smiled bitterly. "Even I find it strange, is she naturally violent?" Uncle Zhou carefully helped Chi-Yu up and said, "You need to rest now. Miss still had a sense of propriety, she did not hurt your bones, and your internal organs were only slightly shaken. Overall, it is considered an external injury, but you have lost a lot of blood. Don't make Miss angry in the future. Actually, Miss is a very good person, she has always been swift and decisive, and hates people who disobey her orders the most. Whether in the business world or at home, she has always been known for being tough." Chi-Yu's eyes flashed coldly. "My memory has always been good, Uncle Zhou, thank you for your reminder." After returning to the room, with the help of Uncle Zhou, Chi-Yu changed his clothes and wiped the bloodstains on his body. Chi-Yu did not even have the strength to eat, and immediately fell into a deep sleep. Ryue stood calmly in her room, looking out the window at the vast expanse of green in the courtyard. Her expression was no longer as cold as before. She raised her right hand, and a faint white light condensed on her hand. After a while, her hand was covered with a layer of fine white scales, and her fingertips also grew solid nails. "Kirin has appeared, it seems that the East is really not peaceful anymore. Chi-Yu, I don't need you to understand my intentions, I only hope that you can become stronger in the shortest time possible. Even if Kirin, one of the 4 auspicious signs, restricts your cultivation, at least you have to have a strong body. It is very difficult for the Zodiac Guardian to complete its mission, without Kirin's guidance, it is impossible to perfect it. Master Zagru, I'm sorry, but I can only use my own method. Why does the thundercloud force in my body fluctuate violently every time I grab his body? For an hour, my thundercloud force seems to be strongly rejected, as if the progress I have made in the past few days has disappeared. Is this the effect of Kirin's auspicious sign?" Chapter 10. Chi-Yu, who was in a deep sleep, kept recalling the acupoints that he had memorized the night before. Every acupoint became clearer. Even the other 7 acupoints that he had not memorized carefully had a rough impression of. This was the first time that the Kirin bloodline had come into play since it had first awakened. Kirin had always been the king of Kirin. Did it really only have the ability to recover? Could Kirin of the 4 auspicious clouds only be trash? This was the first time in the history of Kirin that there was a bloodline inheritance. Even Zagru, who had inherited the power of Buddha for 10 lifetimes, did not know what Kirin really possessed. Time always passed quickly in sleep. When the day was replaced by night, there was one more person in Chi-Yu's room. Ryue was still dressed in white, but now she was wearing sportswear. The black-rimmed glasses on her face were gone, and her black hair was draped over her back, reaching her knees. If Chi-Yu could see Ryue now, he would be very surprised. Right now, there wasn't a trace of violence on her face. Her gentle face exuded a faint warmth. Standing in front of the bed, Ryue's hands kept changing the shape of her hands. Her body emitted a milky white light, which resonated with the black and silver light that Chi-Yu's body emitted. Huh? Why isn't there any rejection now? Hai Ryue was a little surprised as she muttered to herself. When her thundercloud force came into contact with the Kirin aura emitted from Chi Yu's body, not only did her own thundercloud force not produce any rejection, but the speed of its circulation also increased greatly. It should be known that at her current realm, the thundercloud force had already liquefied in her body. The circulation speed was one of the biggest obstacles to cultivation. Hai Ryue crossed her arms in front of her chest and slowly closed her eyes. She used her heart to feel the Kirin aura. She realized that the Kirin aura emitted from Chi Yu's body was very gentle. It was like a warm spring breeze, constantly seeping out of his pores and acting on his body. Chi Yu's body temperature was very high. It was at least 40 degrees Celsius. Every cell in his body seemed to be full of vitality, constantly decomposing and reforming. The injuries on his body recovered much faster than expected. In particular, the sound of Chi Yu's heartbeat was especially clear in this quiet room. The powerful heartbeat was obviously much stronger than that of an ordinary person. Hai Ryue slowly opened her eyes. She thought to herself, that's right. Kirin's aura is naturally the biggest help for the Zodiac guardian god's cultivation. His aura will change according to his own will. Because I used a heavy hand on him previously, he will reject me from the bottom of his heart. His Kirin aura will have the opposite effect on my rising dragon art thundercloud force. Now that he is in a deep sleep and his consciousness has already fallen asleep, I can't judge Kirin's aura. This will allow me to achieve twice the result with half the effort when I cultivate beside him. He is indeed worthy of being the Zodiac King. His aura is only at the beginning of his awakening and it is already so powerful. Damn it, Hai Ryue, I want to rape you. A loud voice suddenly appeared in the quiet room. Even Hai Ryue couldn't help but jump in fright. Chi Yu's body turned over. Perhaps it was because he had touched the injuries on his body. He couldn't help but frown in his sleep. Hai Ryue looked at this Ruffy-like man in a bad mood. A trace of anger flashed in her eyes. Do all men think with their lower bodies? If it wasn't for Kirin, humph. Her plump chest slightly rose and fell. A cold light flashed in her eyes. She bit her lower lip and endured it in the end. Born with the face of an angel and the body of a devil, Hai Ryue became the object of pursuit of her peers when she was in her teens. It was unknown how much trouble this brought her. After all, she was only a woman. She had also met men who could move her heart. However, at the same time, she was also a Zodiac guardian god. Back then, she was the first one that Zagru discovered. For her own responsibility, she had to give up many things that women of her age should have. Dragon was the commander of the Zodiac guardian gods. She carried far more responsibilities than Ji Ming. A knock sounded on the door. Hai Ryue indifferently said, "Come in." Uncle Zhou walked in with a tray. On the tray was a large porcelain pot. "Miss, I cooked some meat porridge for Mr. Qi." Hai Ryue nodded and said, "He should wake up in a while. Uncle Zhou, no matter what happens to him, you don't need to be surprised. You must keep it a secret. His identity is very special. It is very important to me." Uncle Zhou smiled and said, "Miss, you still don't trust me?" Hai Ryue's eyes softened a lot. She walked in front of Uncle Zhou and took the tray and put it on the table. She said, "How can that be? If I don't trust you, I wouldn't have asked you to take care of him. You have watched Xiao Yu grow up. I have always treated you as a father. You are the same as my parents. You are the closest person to me. If I had to choose the most trustworthy person in the world, it would definitely be you." Uncle Zhou's body trembled. He looked kindly at Ryue and said, "Silly child. Uncle Zhou will always be your Uncle Zhou. As long as you don't despise Uncle Zhou for being old, Uncle Zhou will always accompany you. Although this young man called Chi Yu is a bit frivolous, his nature is not bad. You have tormented him quite a bit today. Is this necessary?" Hearing Uncle Zhou mention Chi Yu, Hai Ryue became angry. She snorted and said, "People like him should suffer more. Let him think whatever he wants. I hate lecherous people like him the most. You didn't see the look in his eyes when he first saw me. If it wasn't for his important status, I would have beaten him until he was bedridden for a few months. If I don't teach him a lesson, he will never remember. Uncle Joe laughed lightly and said, "A leopard can change its spots, but a leopard can't. Appetite and lust are part of his nature. He is still so young. It is inevitable that he will be more attentive when it comes to matters between men and women. Moreover, Miss is so beautiful. Miss, you're already 23 years old this year. It's time for you to consider your marriage." Ryue blushed slightly. She said, "Uncle Joe, I don't want to think about this right now. There are too many things that I need to do." Uncle Joe sighed and said, "Miss, no matter what, you are still a girl. You must have your own home. I know that you are shouldering a great responsibility. However, you cannot make things difficult for yourself. Think about Uncle Joe's words. What I want the most is to see you live a happy life." Ryue nodded lightly and said, "Uncle Joe, I am leaving. I will leave him to you." Uncle Joe said, "Are you still going to treat him like that 3 days later?" Ryue said indifferently, "You also know that once I have decided on something, I will not change my mind. This is the best method I can think of for him. Don't worry. His healing ability is extremely strong. He will be fine." Uncle Joe frowned slightly and said, "Perhaps his body will really be fine. However, if you treat him like this, it will also be a heavy blow to his spirit. As a man, to be humiliated and beaten, I am afraid he will bear a grudge against you for the rest of his life. You also said that his status is very important to you. So, why don't you make it clear? Tell him what you are thinking." Ryue shook her head and said, "No, I can't tell him anything. If that is the case, there will be no effect. If he wants to hate me, then so be it. I just hope that his ability to survive will be stronger." "Do you really expect him to have strength that surpasses me?" "I will go out first. After he wakes up, don't tell him anything." Ryue left. Uncle Joe shook his head helplessly. "Miss, when can you change your stubborn temper?" Walking to the bed, Uncle Joe couldn't help but be a little surprised when he saw the silver and black light emitted from Chi-Yu's body. However, he quickly recovered and put his hand on Chi-Yu's wrist to check his pulse. After that, he gently patted Chi-Yu's face and said, "Chi-Yu, wake up. Get up and eat something before going to sleep." A warm flow of air entered his brain. Chi-Yu slowly woke up from his sleep. "Ah, Uncle Joe, it's you." Chi-Yu couldn't help but moan as he felt a stabbing pain all over his body. In the midst of the pain, there seemed to be an itchy feeling in the injured parts. Uncle Joe helped Chi-Yu sit up and brought the porcelain pot in front of him. When the porcelain pot was opened, a strong aroma suddenly came out. Perhaps it was because Chi-Yu's stomach suddenly growled, making Chi-Yu feel very embarrassed. Uncle Joe smiled and said, "Eat something. You have slept for a whole day." Chi-Yu looked at the sky outside through the window and said, "It's been so long. I can really sleep. Thank you, Uncle Joe." As he said that, he took the bowl from Uncle Joe and ate it in big mouthfuls. Although his whole body was still in pain, his spirit was obviously much better. He was no longer in a state where he couldn't use any strength. Chi-Yu didn't feel anything, but Uncle Joe was deeply shocked by his recovery ability. One had to know that when he had checked Chi-Yu's body this morning, he had discovered that his bones and tendons had been severely injured and his muscles had suffered even greater damage. In just one day, he was able to eat by himself. This was the first time Uncle Joe had seen such recovery ability. Chi-Yu's table manners had never been very elegant. A large pot of meat porridge was quickly emptied into his stomach. He did not know why, but he felt that his body was in great need of food. Even though he had eaten 2 or 3 servings of porridge, he was still not satisfied. "Chi-Yu, I will call you that." Uncle Joe put the porcelain pot and the bowl aside. Chi-Yu nodded and said, "Of course, you are my elder. You should call me by my name." Uncle Joe said, Miss wants you to go to the training room in 3 days, and the time will be extended by 10 minutes. Can you bear it? Chi-Yu said indifferently, It's not impossible. Anyway, I won't give in to her and she won't beat me to death. Since that's the case, then come on. I have no ability to resist, and I can only choose to accept it. You don't need to persuade me. Even if my attitude towards her changes, I am afraid she will not let me go. I also understand why she is doing this. Uncle Zhou said in surprise. You understand? Chi-Yu sneered. Of course I understand. When you sent me back this morning, although my body was numb, my mind was very clear. I understood at that time. I'm a ruffian, and it's only because of a fortuitous encounter that I have a special identity, but in the end I'm just a little ruffian. She looks down on my strength and is afraid that I'll drag them down in the future, so she stimulates my body's potential by beating me up. This way, my self-healing ability that surpasses ordinary people will become stronger, and I'll bring them less trouble in the future. Uncle Zhou nodded and said, You're a smart child. Since you understand all this, you should also understand why the young miss looks down on you. Because you don't have the strength to make her look up to you. As a man, you don't need any explanation or any way to cover up your shortcomings. You need to take action. Rely on action to prove your strength. As long as you keep working hard, one day no one in this world will look down on you. Although Miss is a little extreme, she did it deliberately to provoke you. I believe that you are a man with courage. Chi-Yu said with some gratitude, Thank you, Uncle Zhou. I know that you do not look down on me. Don't worry, although I, Chi-Yu, am a ruffian, I am also a real man. Uncle Zhou nodded with satisfaction and said with a smile, Have you thought about how to deal with Mrs. 10 minutes of attack? Based on my understanding of her, since she has said it, she will not hold back. Chi-Yu shook his head at a loss and said, I don't know. Maybe my self-healing ability can help me bear it. One thing I am sure of is that she will not really hurt me. Uncle Zhou said, You're being too passive. Actually, there's a way to passively take a beating. You said it yourself, Miss won't really hurt you. If you can use a better method to take the beating, then the injuries you'll suffer will be much lighter. Chi-Yu's eyes lit up and said, Uncle Zhou, are you willing to teach me? Uncle Zhou did not answer him directly. It is the same to be beaten, but it can have different effects. I don't know what is going on with the airflow from your body, but I can feel that it is the source of your magical self-healing ability. Your physical quality is still good. I have carefully checked your bones, and you can be said to be a rare genius in 100 years. There are only 3 days, so I can't teach you anything profound. Let me teach you how to take a beating. Being beaten is also a kind of knowledge. It is the application of one's own body and the application of one's strength. You are like a blank piece of paper now. As long as you have some understanding, then it should not be too difficult for you to withstand Miss for 10 more minutes. After all, she is only beating you. Chi-Yu said respectfully, Then please teach me. I will call you Teacher Zhou in the future. No need, you can call me Uncle Zhou. In fact, some skills are very simple and can be easily done by ordinary people. It is like a layer of paper separated by 2 layers of ice and fire. You can easily understand it when you poke through the paper. For example, when you hit the wall with your back, it will inevitably cause shock and discomfort to your whole body. If you raise your arms above your shoulders at the moment before you hit the wall, then the muscles on your back will automatically tense up. In this way, the shock you receive when you hit the wall will be much less. If the enemy punches you, at this time you want to block his fist and directly take his punch, you will naturally have to bear the impact of his punch. However, if you let it go directly, you can hit the joint of his wrist with your palm. It will be very easy to make his punch miss. Human arms are like snakes. Although they are not as flexible as snakes, they have several joints. Hitting the joints is like hitting the snake's weak point. These skills are very simple. As long as you practice a little, you can also do it. Chi-Yu nodded thoughtfully. What Uncle Zhou opened in front of him was a special door. Uncle Zhou took out a book from his bosom and handed it to Qiyu. This is a simple cultivation method. It can also be said to be the method of building the foundation. As long as you keep practicing, it will have the effect of strengthening the body. I have made detailed notes on the formula. Based on Mrs. Importance to you, I will not be your teacher. However, I am old and do not want my skills to die with me, so I will pass it on to you. I hope it will be of help to you. The most advantageous aspect of my skill is that I can practice sitting, lying down, walking, sleeping, and even when my body is upside down, I can also practice it. Although you are a little old, as long as you work hard, you will have some achievements. Today you can simply familiarize yourself with it. When your body recovers a little, I will teach you. Qiyu looked down at the book in his hand. The book was not thick. It seemed to only have a dozen or so pages. There were 4 big words written on it: Mysterious Heaven Treasure Record. Qiyu struggled to get off the bed. Although the pain in his body made him suck in a breath of cold air, he still struggled to stand up and kneel on the ground. Teacher, no matter what Hai Ryue thinks, in any case, I have recognized you as my teacher. Although it was only the first day he met Uncle Zhou brought him a sense of intimacy and care, as well as the selfless teaching, which moved him. Uncle Zhou grabbed Qiyu's arms. A gentle force lifted him up. He smiled and said, "We can be considered to be fated. This year I am already 70 years old. In fact, I do not like your character, but I really do not want my unique skill to be lost. Moreover, you have such good bones. Since you are willing, I will accept you as my teacher. I only hope that you can pass on my skills. I have been practicing martial arts since I was 8, and it has been 62 years now. In 60 years, I have learned a lot. Yan Huang is vast and profound. You have an unruly nature, so I will not restrict you. I only hope that no matter what you do, you will not let down your own heart. You should rest first. I will come again tomorrow morning to teach you some skills." Uncle Zhou took the tray and left. Qiyu could not wait to open the thin book in his hands. He was pleasantly surprised to find that the first 2 pages of the book introduced the 8 extraordinary meridians of the human body. He had already memorized one yesterday. His current state of mind was completely different from last night. His desire for strength made him no longer lazy. He immediately picked up the book and carefully memorized it. He knew that whether it was the things that Uncle Zhou had taught him or the ascending Qilin formula, the 8 extraordinary meridians were very important to him in the future. Qiyu was not stupid. On the contrary, he was a very smart person. It was only because of his background and the surrounding environment that he did not put his intelligence into studying. He was very lazy, but once he decided to do something, he would give it his all. Under his constant effort, he not only memorized the 8 extraordinary meridians in 3 hours, but he also found the approximate position of the meridians in his body according to the meridian diagram in the Mysterious Heaven Treasure Record. After sleeping for a whole day, he was not sleepy at all. When he finished memorizing the 8 extraordinary meridians, he could not wait to flip to the 3rd page of the Mysterious Heaven Treasure Record. The 3rd page was also a diagram, but the person in the diagram was sitting. A red arrow was drawn on the person's body in a regular pattern, starting from the dantian acupoint on the lower abdomen and ending at the dantian acupoint. It followed the 8 extraordinary meridians and made a complete circle. There was a detailed explanation on the side. Using the will to guide the qi, move the heart at will, and use the will to ascend to the dantian. After, as he read the book, Qiyu subconsciously imitated it. With the memory of the 8 extraordinary meridians, he quickly memorized the route of the red arrow. This was the first time in his life that he had officially begun to cultivate. His will moved slowly in coordination with the special reverse breathing technique described in the Mysterious Heaven Treasure Record. Just by moving his will, Qiyu did not feel anything special. However, when his will started from the dantian and ended at the dantian, he immediately felt a change. There seemed to be something extra in his dantian. When he carefully felt it, it seemed to be a small airflow. The airflow was very weak, and as it fluctuated, it was faintly divided into 4 parts. Chi-Yu discovered that these 4 parts of airflow were purple, green, blue, and red. They seemed to be flowing gently in his dantian. This discovery immediately made Chi-Yu's heart tremble. Zagru had once told him that he was Kiran of the 4 auspicious clouds. He had the 4 abilities of thunder, wind, water, and fire. It seemed to be these 4 colors. Why did they say that his cultivation would be very difficult? He had only cultivated one of the spiritual circulations described in the mysterious Heaven Treasure record, but he already felt it. This did not seem to be slow. In fact, he did not know that after his awakening, the abilities of Kiran of the 4 auspicious clouds had already existed. It was just that he had not deliberately activated them. Therefore, these 4 abilities had always been dormant in his body. Although the mysterious Heaven Treasure record was not the ascending Qilin method, it was still an orthodox cultivation method. After 1 spiritual circulations, it naturally triggered the thundercloud force that was produced after his awakening to condense in his dantian. Chi-Yu tried to control the 4 airflows to move towards his hands. The airflows were very obedient, following his thoughts and moving along his meridians. When they arrived at his hands, Chi-Yu felt that both his thumb and index finger had a different feeling at the same time. A ball of flame appeared on his left thumb, and his index finger was slightly numb. A faint purple electric light revolved around his left index finger, and his right thumb emitted a faint layer of blue light. A gentle energy flowed gently, and there was an invisible airflow slightly rotating around his right index finger. The changes caused Chi-Yu to be overjoyed. He knew that his guess was correct. These were the 4 abilities of Kiran of the 4 auspicious clouds. Thinking back to what Ji Ming had taught him, he could not help but open his mouth and shout, "Appear." It was a simple word, but it seemed to trigger the vitality of every cell in his body. The 4 tiny airflows that were originally circulating slowly in his body instantly condensed at his fingertip. Red, purple, and blue lights lit up at the same time, and a slight whistling sound of wind also appeared. The red light was a fireball the size of a ping-pong ball, and the purple electric light was already drifting erratically, leaving a charred mark on the wall next to him. The blue light was a small ball of water, and the wind also dispersed unstably. At this moment, there was a small energy ball on each of Chi-Yu's thumbs. The red and blue lights shone faintly, giving him a great shock. However, this situation did not last for too long. In just a few seconds, the red and blue balls disappeared at the same time. His body also seemed to have been sucked dry, and the airflow that had just appeared disappeared. "Appear!" Chi-Yu shouted again in a low voice. Unfortunately, there was no reaction this time. Even so, this short change gave him a lot of confidence. He immediately sat cross-legged and began to cultivate according to the method recorded in the mysterious Heaven Treasure record. This time, it was not a single cycle. Chi-Yu clearly remembered that Ming had said that the best way to cultivate the ascending cloud method was to complete 49 cycles, which was a large cycle. Since the mysterious Heaven Treasure record was also a cultivation method, it should be similar. It was just that one cycle in the mysterious Heaven Treasure record was called a cycle. Therefore, when he started cultivating again, he decided to directly do a large cycle. The beginning of cultivation was exploration. When Chi-Yu's mind followed the cultivation route and ran 7 cycles, he no longer needed to deliberately feel the familiar route. Gradually, he entered a hazy state. In fact, he did not know that as a beginner, he should start from a small cycle. He could not go beyond 7 cycles. After he improved, he could gradually increase the number of small cycles. Only when he had a certain level of success could he start to cultivate a large cycle. This was because a beginner's mind would definitely have some flaws. Once his mind was disturbed during the cultivation process, it was very likely that he would go berserk. However, as an auspicious sign, he was clearly lucky. His desire for power made him wholeheartedly focus on cultivation, and his mind did not waver. More importantly, when he began to cultivate, the relic bead on his wrist naturally emitted a gentle energy that stabilized his mind. With the relic bead on his body, it would not be easy for him to go berserk even if he wanted to. After 49 cycles, Chi Yu did not feel that it took him much time. When the last cycle was completed, he realized that the 4 streams of air had reappeared in his dantian. It was obvious that these 4 streams of air were much more condensed than before, and their volume had also increased. He did not know that he had managed to completely condense the Kirin's energy that he had obtained after waking up in just one night. This would be indescribably beneficial to his future cultivation. Although it was not the ascending Qilin technique, the effect was actually better than the ascending Qilin technique. The foundation cultivation of the mysterious heaven treasure record was to expel the turbid qi from the human body and gather clear qi to achieve the effect of dispelling the impurities in the body. If an ordinary person could persevere, they would only be successful after 3 years. At that time, they would become strong and their body light. Their foundation would be firm, and they would be able to achieve twice the results with half the effort when cultivating other advanced cultivation technique. However, Kirin's aura was obviously pure clear qi. Qi Yu did not need to absorb the clear qi between heaven and earth bit by bit like an ordinary person to replenish his body. After one night of cultivation, he had directly absorbed the Kirin's cloud qi that was scattered in his 8 extraordinary meridians. Taking a deep breath, Chi Yu only felt that his whole body was refreshed. When he opened his eyes, he happened to see his newly recognized master, Uncle Zhou, let out a long sigh as if he had been relieved of a heavy burden. "Master, you're here." Chi Yu hurriedly stood up from the bed. Although he was a ruffian, he also knew the simple principle of respecting his own master. Uncle Zhou said in a bad mood, "Are you trying to scare me to death? I gave you the mysterious Heaven Treasure Records Foundation Cultivation section because I wanted you to have a simple understanding of the process. Who told you to cultivate on your own? Without my guidance and protection, if you go berserk outside, you will become a cripple." Chi Yu scratched his head and said, "But I feel very good. It's very comfortable, and the injuries on my body don't seem to hurt anymore." A trace of a smile appeared on Uncle Zhou's face. "Your talent is unprecedented. Not only did you try to cultivate on your own, you were also able to complete a great heavenly cycle on your first try. For people like us who practice internal martial arts, this is something that we can only hope for but not ask for. It seems that the age limit for martial artists no longer has any meaning for you. After cultivating for a night, how do you feel?" Chi Yu laughed mischievously. With a thought, he extended both his hands. Immediately, the 4 elemental energies simultaneously appeared at his fingertip. Although it was only a faint glow, the characteristics of the 4 elemental energies were immediately revealed. He somewhat proudly described the feeling he had while cultivating. Hearing Chi Yu's words, Uncle Zhou's expression couldn't help but change. Oh no, I've ruined the young Mrs. Grand plan." "So you have the ability. Then you shouldn't have practiced my cultivation method." "Chi Yu, it seems that I can't be your master anymore." Chi Yu stared blankly. "Master, what are you saying? A teacher for a day, a teacher for life." Uncle Zhou bitterly smiled and shook his head, saying, "You don't need to do anything right now. Just wait here, I'll go find the young miss." Saying this, he immediately hurried out the door. In a short moment, Hai Ryue had already followed Uncle Zhou back to Chi Yu's room. Hai Ryue frowned as she looked at Chi Yu, saying, "Use the ability you just used one more time." Chapter 11. Hai Ryue's eyes were filled with surprise. She glanced at Uncle Zhou. Uncle Zhou said, "Miss, I'm sorry. I didn't know that he had already." Hai Ryue shook her head and said, "Fortunately, it didn't have any negative effects. Uncle Zhou, you go do what you need to do. Chi-Yu, come with me. After saying that, she turned around and walked out. Chi-Yu didn't understand what Hai-Ryue meant. He could only follow her out of his room. Hai-Ryue brought Chi-Yu directly to the third floor. It was the training room again. In the training room, the blood that flowed from Chi-Yu's body had disappeared. It was cleaned up very cleanly. Chi-Yu recalled the last blow and couldn't help but feel a little nervous. It hasn't been 3 days yet. Hai-Ryue said indifferently, it hasn't been 3 days, but it has been 2 days. Chi-Yu said in surprise, you mean, I have cultivated for 2 days? Hai-Ryue said, it seems that I have underestimated you. The Kirin bloodline has brought you more things than I imagined. When she had first awakened, it had taken her half a month to begin to grasp the abilities of the first awakening. Chi-Yu, on the other hand, had only been awake for a few days. He hadn't even learned the ascending Qilin technique, yet he could already use the abilities of the 4 awakened attribute. How could she not be shocked? Chi-Yu leaned against the wall and said, then why did you call me here? Are you going to torture me in advance? Hai-Ryue said, no, I called you here because I wanted to show you the true power of the Zodiac guardian god. Today, she was still wearing the black-rimmed glasses and the professional dress that Chi-Yu had seen her for the first time. Chi-Yu said with a little ridicule, you want to show me your ability just like that? Aren't you afraid of exposing yourself? Hai-Ryue said coldly, what else is in your mind besides those dirty thoughts? Zodiac dragon. With a light cry like a phoenix, Hai-Ryue's body floated up. Chi-Yu only saw a blur before Hai-Ryue's body suddenly disappeared. He could only see a white shadow in the air. First, Hai-Ryue's clothes were neatly placed on the ground. Seeing the clothes, Chi-Yu couldn't help but be stunned. Did she strip in front of him? Just as this thought arose, Hai-Ryue's figure became clear. At this time, Hai-Ryue had completely changed. Her long black hair had turned deep blue, floating behind her back. What made Chi-Yu dumbfounded was that Hai-Ryue's body was actually covered with a layer of crystal white scales. 2 large wings were unfolded behind her back, and the scales covered every part of her body. On her beautiful face there was a white mask. The mask was exactly the same as her face, only revealing a pair of radiant eyes. Although the scales covered every part of her body, her perfect figure was also presented in front of Chi-Yu. The white scales continuously extended from her waist down to her short battle skirt that was only 8 inches long. Her upper body was also covered with thick scales like armor, outlining the perfect curves of her chest. In the center of her chest, there was a milky white bead the size of a ping-pong ball that constantly emitted waves of white light. It wasn't a gentle light, but it gave Chi-Yu a feeling of endless oppression. At this time, Chi-Yu could clearly feel that there was an invisible force emitting from Hai-Ryue's body, pressing down on his body from every angle. Even if he wanted to move, it became even more difficult. After the transformation, Hai-Ryue appeared to be even colder. She extended both of her fingertips to the sides of her body, each growing 3 inches long sharp nails. Hai-Ryue's body looked so perfect, and Chi-Yu did not doubt that it contained an explosive power. He was deeply shocked by the scene in front of him. Was this a dragon? A dragon's ability? The transformation did not end there. Hai-Ryue let out a low moan, and the white light on her chest became even more intense. The white pearl exploded with a huge amount of energy. Although Chi-Yu was unwilling, the sudden appearance of the huge pressure still forced him to sit on the ground. The scales on Hai-Ryue's body became a little wider, and a sharp claw appeared at the tip of the open dragon wings. 2 protrusions rose from the long blue hair on her head, and triangular sharp points extended from the armor on her shoulders. The dragon's eyes shone brightly, turning from blue to red, like 2 rubies, forming a sharp contrast with the white scales on her body. Chi-Yu said in a daze, "Is this the power of a dragon?" Hai-Ryue's cold voice sounded from behind the mask. "Yes, this is the power of a dragon. Our Eastern dragons originally don't have wings, but because I have a quarter of European blood, compared to the previous dragon Zodiac, I have an extra pair of dragon wings, making me stronger. I'm only displaying this in front of you to let you see the true power of the Zodiac Guardian. When the ascending cloud art is cultivated to the third cloud, I will have the ability of origin mutation. Origin mutation can make our body more similar to the original appearance of the Zodiac, and also fully display our abilities. When I reach the sixth cloud, the origin mutation will enter the second transformation. Although I'm still a certain distance away from the sixth cloud, I can already use some of the abilities of the second transformation. When I truly reach the sixth cloud, then my hair will also change into red. With the ability of the second transformation of the Zodiac Dragon, no individual firearms can harm me. With my strength, I can easily raise this villa to the ground. The power of a dragon is mainly reflected in the whole body. Not only is my body tyrannical, at the same time, I also have some special abilities of a dragon. With the dragon's aura that I'm emitting now, ordinary people would have already fainted. It's the aura of Kirin on your body that is resisting the dragon's aura, allowing you to stay awake. It's a pity that your Kirin hasn't even reached the first cloud. As she spoke, Hai Ryue slowly floated down to the ground. Her dragon eyes that were flickering with red light looked at Chi-Yu indifferently. We, the Zodiac Guardian Warriors, have special abilities that ordinary people can't reach. Therefore, you can only practice one kind of cultivation method, and that is the ascending cloud art that belongs to you. Only Kirin can practice the ascending cloud art. You can learn some fighting skills from Uncle Zhou, but you can't learn his cultivation method anymore. I just received the news, and now there's something that I have to deal with. I've decided to bring you along, and let you see what we, the Zodiac Guardian Warriors, have to face. While Chi-Yu was stunned, Hai Ryue had already appeared beside him. She directly clamped him under her armpit, spread her wings on her back, and directly flew out of the window. F***CK, aren't you afraid that ordinary people will see you flying out like this? Chi-Yu said with some fear. He wasn't afraid of Hai Ryue's strength, but he had the same problem as when he was on the plane, fear of heights. After all, the plane was a confined space, and his fear of heights was completely due to the feeling of weightlessness and psychological effects. But now it was different. His body directly flew in the air, and this feeling was direct. Hai Ryue flapped her wings and said while flying, "Haven't you heard of the saying that the clouds follow the dragon, and the wind follows the tiger? In the eyes of outsiders, I'm only a cloud. Even the most advanced radar can't detect the aura of life from the clouds I release." Only then did Chi-Yu realize that from the moment Hai Ryue flew out of the window, her body had already released a layer of faint white light. From his angle, the white light was transparent and he could see the outside world. "Hey, why are you shaking? Are you a man afraid of heights?" Hai Ryue's voice was surprised, and there was a hint of ridicule in her voice. "What's wrong with being afraid of heights? Is it embarrassing?" Although Chi-Yu was arguing, his voice was much softer, and the fear in his heart was increasing as he got further and further away from the ground. Hai Ryue giggled and said, "Serves you right, so you're afraid of heights. The next time you offend me, I'll take you for a ride in the sky." Actually, if you can cultivate the ascending Qilin technique to the second cloud, then you can also have the ability to fly. Kirin can also fly, with the help of Kirin's magic cloud, so there's no need for wings. At that time, do you still dare to fly? Chi-Yu was stunned and said, "I can fly too?" Hai Ryue said, "That's under the premise that you can undergo the first transformation, Zodiac mutation. However, you don't belong to the Zodiac, so it should be called Zodiac mutation." Hai Ryue's flying speed was extremely fast. After all, the dragons of the East could fly. Now that she had 2 more dragon wings, she could not fly thousands of miles in an instant. However, even from high up in the sky, she could clearly see the scenery beneath her feet constantly flying past. In order to slightly reduce his fear of heights, Chi-Yu could only talk to Hai Ryue, and his gaze was focused on her full chest that was covered in scales. "Where are you taking me?" Ryue extended her left wrist in front of Chiyu, and there was a silver bracelet on it. The bracelet was about an inch wide, and there were a few red gems embedded on it. This is called the Spirit Cloud Bracelet, and it must be used in conjunction with the thundercloud force that our Zodiac guardian god possesses. Once a powerful aura appears within 1,000 miles of our Zodiac guardian god, it will sense it. When you reach the initial cloud realm, I will naturally give you one. What are your eyes looking at? Chiyu coughed and said, Your dragon armor is really beautiful. Now, he didn't dare to offend Ryue. He would rather be beaten 10 times than to be suspended in the air like this. Ryue snorted and said, "Lust is like a knife above your head." Chiyu asked, "What do you mean by a powerful aura just now?" Ryue said, "You have just woken up, and because you don't need to face it yet, there are many things that Master Zagru didn't tell you. I might as well give you a heads up. As the Guardians of the East, our Zodiac guardian god has to face many things. For example, the threat of foreign enemies to the Yenhuang Republic, or the provocation from the Western Guardians. Also, there are the prehistoric beasts that have been passed down from ancient times in the East. For example, the Kirin that you have inherited is a prehistoric beast, and it has the title of the king of prehistoric beasts. The Earth has existed for billions of years, but we humans have only existed for a few million years. You should know about cockroaches. Cockroaches are famous for their vitality. As early as 300 million years ago, their footprints appeared on the Earth. From the day humans were born, all the creatures that appeared before them could be classified as prehistoric beasts. After the baptism of time, some of the prehistoric beasts had already gone extinct because they could not adapt to the gradually changing environment. However, there are some that have a strong vitality like cockroaches that survive. After a long period of continuous evolution, their abilities are extremely terrifying. Most of them hide in the deep mountains and great swamp. Chiyu thought for a moment and said, "Since they are hibernating and won't harm humans, why should we look for them?" Ryue said, "If they are really that quiet, we naturally won't find trouble with them. After all, every creature has its right to live. However, at a specific time, these prehistoric beasts will gradually appear in our world after waking up from their sleep or cultivation. Once they are allowed to enter human society, they will inevitably bring great disasters. Therefore, as the Eastern Guardians, we must not let these prehistoric beasts grow. We must destroy them when they come out, so as not to bring panic to human society. Fortunately, there are not many prehistoric beasts, and most of them have lost the ability to reproduce. Therefore, our Zodiac Guardian can cooperate with the other Eastern Guardians to destroy them or put them to sleep." After listening to Ryue's words, Chiyu could not help but be full of curiosity, and even his fear of heights was reduced a little. What about the West? Since prehistoric beasts have appeared on the Earth for a long time, it can't be only in our Yenhuang Republic. What if there are prehistoric beasts in the West? Do we, the Zodiac Guardian, have to go to the West to help? Ryue said indifferently, "The West has its own order. Do you think those myths in the West are all fictitious? Some of them are indeed exaggerated, but the West also has their own guardian force. The guardian force in the West is divided into 2 parts. One part is the power of the Vatican. They have many priests and excellent talent. These people practice the holy power inherited by the Vatican, and they can also deal with prehistoric beasts. The other part is also the most ancient guardian force, which is almost the same era as our Zodiac Guardian. That is the guardian force inherited from Greek mythology. We don't know what their specific abilities are. I only know that the legendary gods in Greek mythology will appear in every generation, and at the same time, his followers will appear. The person who inherits the divine power will lead his followers to protect the West. Because of different ideas, the relationship between them and the Vatican doesn't seem to be harmonious. I heard from Master Zaglu that the last time the guardians of the East and the West appeared, it was the sun god Apollo, the son of Zeus, who appeared in Greek mythology. He led the 12 golden crow warriors of the sun to protect the West. In our generation, we don't know who it is, but I'm sure that person should have appeared. Chiyu said disapprovingly, "Why are you so sure?" Hyrule looked down at him and said, "Because of your appearance. Because you belong to the same era. Our Eastern Kirin was born almost at the same time as the gods in Greek mythology. The difference between them will not be more than 3 years. Since you have appeared, the person in Greece should have also appeared. You are fated opponents. Do you know? At least 5 generations of Kirin were killed because of the conflict between the Eastern and Western Guardians. Although we mostly have the upper hand in the battle with the West, the sacrifice is also great. The biggest difference between the Greek mythological guardians and you is that the moment they appear, they will possess a rather powerful divine power. As for the Qilin, without the protection of the Zodiac guardian god and the combined power, it would be impossible for him to contend against it. After all, Kirin's cultivation is too difficult." Chiyu said with some disappointment. "Miss Ryue, according to what you said, no matter how hard I try, it is impossible for me to become as strong as you." Hyrule said with some surprise, "Didn't you call me Tyrannosaurus Rex?" Chiyu glanced at the miniaturized scenery below and said awkwardly, This, I live in your house and eat your food. I should be more polite, shouldn't I?" Hyrule looked at Chiyu's embarrassment and couldn't help but feel a little proud. Nothing is absolute. In our generation, there are 4 Zodiac Guardians, including you. You and I are both mutated Zodiac Guardians. For example, I am a little stronger than the previous Zodiac Dragon, and you are the unprecedented Ink Kirin. Maybe you have some special ability that can make you stronger in the process of cultivation. It only took you 2 days to be able to use the power of initial awakening is a good proof. Although it is still very weak, at least it is a good start. When we go back, I will teach you the ascending Qilin chant and you can start cultivating. Chiyu asked tentatively, "Does that mean I don't need to cultivate my self-healing ability?" Hyrule said, "I thought you are not afraid of being beaten. So you can be afraid." Chiyu rolled his eyes and said, "I am not a masochist. It is better not to be beaten if I can avoid it." Hyrule said, "Seeing that you are doing well now, you can cultivate the ascending Qilin chant when we go back. I have a lot of things to deal with anyway, so I don't have time to play with you. However, if you can't achieve success in the ascending Qilin chant, then you still have to cultivate your self-healing ability. Look, it is there." As she said that, Hyrule suddenly pointed below. Chiyu suppressed his fear and looked down. Below was a stretch of rolling mountains. The mountains did not seem very tall, but the mountains were surrounded by clouds and mist, giving it a somewhat unearthly atmosphere. Hyrule suddenly retracted her dragon wings, and under Chiyu's surprised cry, the 2 of them fell to the ground like meteorites. The sudden fall from thousands of meters in the sky immediately produced a strong sense of weightlessness. Chiyu cried out in alarm, his hands tightly hugging Hyrule. Perhaps he really had a talent for being a pervert. One of his hands just happened to grab the hard dragon scales on Hyrule's chest. Chiyu only felt that he was grabbing a hard little hill. At this time, he did not feel good and closed his eyes in fear. A faint black and silver air suddenly appeared in Chiyu's sudden fear. Hyrule only felt her body become light, and the thundercloud force in her body instantly increased. The Kirin's aura that Chiyu was emitting was like a tonic, quickly replenishing the thundercloud force that she had used up for her origin mutation. Looking at Chiyu's pale face, Hyrule couldn't help but shake her head. The dragon wings on her back slowly spread out, and the speed of their fall immediately decreased. Chiyu closed his eyes for who knew how long. Suddenly, he felt the ground beneath him shake and immediately shouted, "Dead, dead. Dead my ass." Hyrule slapped away Chiyu's hand that was grabbing on her chest. Because one of her hands was hugging Chiyu, and the other hand was guarding against possible enemy attacks, she could only let Chiyu hold on to her chest for a short period of time while they were falling. Although they were separated by dragon scales, the heat from Chiyu's injury still brought quite a bit of sensation to her sensitive area. Of course, what she felt was complete disgust. Chiyu opened his eyes, and only then did he realize that his feet had landed on the ground. His legs softened, and he immediately sat on the ground. Taking a deep breath, he sighed, "This is the first time I feel that the earth is so beautiful." Ryue said in a low voice, "I'm afraid this time will be a little troublesome. This guy's aura is very strong, so be careful and don't interfere." Saying that, she once again flew up, but this time, she glided forward. Chiyu calmed himself down and found that he was on a small hill, and Ryue was gliding down from this hill. Looking in the direction that Ryue was gliding, Chiyu found that in the col in front of him, there was a 3-meter-wide hole that was emitting light blue smoke. The smoke rose about 4 or 5 meters into the air before dissipating with the wind. Ryue quickly floated above the hole. Her wings spread wide, and under the cover of a layer of white light, she quietly floated there. A loud dragon's roar came from Ryue's mouth, and her dark blue hair fluttered without any wind. Chiyu was shocked by this sudden roar, and not long after, he found out that this was one of the dragon Zodiac's special skills, Dragon's Might. Compared to weaker creatures, it had a strong deterrent effect. The blue smoke emitted from the hole immediately scattered after the dragon's roar, and the ground trembled slightly. A terrifying aura spread out from the hole. Following a low roar, the ground trembled, and a black shadow flashed, and a monster appeared out of thin air beside the hole. The moment the monster appeared, a strange feeling arose in Chiyu's heart. This monster looked extremely familiar. Its entire body was covered in dense black fur, its eyes were bright and spirited, and its body was as large as an ox. On its forehead was a pitch-black horn, and on its back was a pair of wings that spread out to the sides of its body. However, it did not fly up, nor did it let out a roar. It only raised its head to look at Ryue in the sky. A blue aura came out of its mouth and nose, and its bright eyes seemed to be thinking about something. Chiyu's heart moved. He suddenly understood why this monster looked familiar, because this monster was actually 80% similar to the Kirin tattoo on his body, except that it had an extra pair of wings. Oh my god! Did Ryue want to kill a Kirin? Miss Ryue, can you not kill it? It seems to be the same as me, an ink Kirin. Perhaps it was because they were of the same branch, Chiyu loudly reminded Ryue. Ryue really did not want to kill it. She floated in the air, and her eyes were full of surprise. No, it is not a Kirin, this is a Sieji. Kirin's horn is spiral, but Sieji's horn is bright. Chiyu was stunned. What is a Sieji? Is it the same as you, a mutated Kirin? Ryue flew behind, keeping a distance of about 100 meters from the Sieji, and said without turning her head, "Idiot, the strength of Sieji is a little weaker than Kirin, but its reputation is not less than Kirin. Sieji, a famous mythological beast produced under the ancient system of divine judgment, also known as a magic beast. According to Luan Heng and Huainan Zi, cultivation chapter, its body size is as big as a cow and the small as a sheep. Its appearance is roughly similar to Kirin, and its whole body is covered with thick black hair. It usually has a single horn on its forehead, and it is said that if the horn is broken, it will die. It is seen to have wings, but most of them do not have wings. It has a high intelligence, can understand people, and will use its horn to resist dishonest and disloyal people. Later generations often raise ordinary sheep in the temple, which is used to replace Sieji. This Sieji's body is as big as a cow, and it has a pair of wings on its back. I am afraid it has the same status as you in Kirin, the king of Sieji. The strength of Sieji grows with age, and this Sieji is probably more than 1,000 years old. A human who has inherited the bloodline of the dragon. To be precise, I am 3,467 years old this year. The voice actually came from the mouth of the Xieji, but its eyes were no longer looking at Hairyue, but fell on Chiyu. Hairyue gasped. She was very clear that the strength of these ancient beasts was closely related to their age. Below 1,000 years old was a level, after a year or two, their strength could increase by a level, and after 3,000 years, it was another level. The strongest was a 10,000-year beast, and it needed at least 6 Zodiac guardian gods of 6 clouds to be able to fight against it, and it also depended on the attributes and ability of the beast. Even if it was the 3,000-year-old Xieji in front of her, with the strength of 5 clouds, it was very difficult to fight against it, and she had no confidence at all. Fortunately, this time she encountered a Xieji. As a magic beast, Xieji had a very strong sense of hatred, and it always only attacked vicious and evil people, and would not harass human beings. Therefore, the Zodiac guardian gods of the past would not take any action against Xieji. Hairyue said, "Hello, Senior, I found a strong breath here just now. I didn't know it was you here, and I disturbed your rest, please forgive me." Xieji raised its big head, and the wings on its back fluttered, and it suddenly flew up. Its speed was so fast that it left an afterimage in the air. Hairyue was shocked. Just when she thought that Xieji was not hostile, Xieji's flying body had instantly swept under her, and it rushed towards Chiyu like lightning. No matter who it was, when they saw a huge monster suddenly rushing towards them, they would feel fear. Seeing Xieji's body instantly enlarged, Chiyu shouted almost without hesitation, "Lin!" 3 balls of light floated out, and even Chiyu himself did not know how to control them. The purple, blue, and red balls of light quickly rotated in the invisible wind, and directly flew towards Xieji. The wind was not strong, but within a certain range, it had a very high speed of rotation. The Lin formula instantly drained all the thundercloud force in Chiyu's body, and the small tornado just happened to include the other 3 light balls, and almost instantly exploded. The 3 attributes of water, fire, and thunder changed in the rapid rotation of the wind. The 3 light balls shrank to the middle at the same time, and then they turned into a shuttle-shaped light, red in front and blue in the back, surrounded by purple lightning. Xieji could not dodge it with its speed. With a bang, the light shuttle hit Xieji's chest, causing its rushing body to stop for a moment. Xieji's eyes showed a trace of surprise, and a layer of frost appeared on the black hair on its chest, and the hair inside the frost seemed to be burnt. With a bang, Xieji fell heavily next to Chiyu. Chiyu did not even have time to react, and he was already kicked down by Xieji. Its huge front claws pressed on his chest, and Chiyu had no doubt that even with the weight of Xieji, it could crush him to death several times. Senior. Hairyue finally arrived, and in her hands, there was a white spear of light that was 3 meters long. It was completely condensed by thundercloud force, and the place where the spear of light was pointing was the long black horn on Xieji's head. Xieji's front claws did not step down, but directly slashed down. Hairyue's heart was full of regret. She deeply blamed herself for bringing Chiyu here, and even more for trusting that Xieji would not hurt humans. If the huge front claws were to fall down, Chiyu would inevitably be in danger of being cut open. She suddenly closed her eyes, and the 2 spears in her hands were thrown out, bringing her thundercloud force straight to the horn on top of Xieji's head. "Little girl, haven't you heard that although the horn of Xieji is a vital point, it is also its strongest place?" 2 black lightning bolts were released in an instant, and with 2 soft sounds, the 2 spears formed by thundercloud force disappeared at the same time. Xieji said softly, "What a strong impact, your ability is a bit strange." Hairyue did not hear Chiyu's scream. When she opened her eyes, she just saw that Xieji had slashed her attack, and its front claws had already scratched Chiyu's body. However, Chiyu was not cut open, but his clothes had disappeared. Because he had previously used the Kirin thundercloud force that he had just condensed, at this time, The black and silver Kirin image appeared on his chest. The black and silver spiral horn was particularly obvious, shining with a faint light. Xieji stared at Qiyu, and the light in its eyes suddenly brightened. It looked up to the sky and made a loud and long roar. The roar rolled up and went straight into the sky, and blue smoke spurted out from its mouth and nose at the same time. Chapter 12. The Kirin pattern on his body suddenly shone brightly. Qiyu only felt that he was suddenly full of power. Black and silver light and shadow surged out, and a huge light and shadow condensed above his body. The originally flat pattern became three-dimensional. Although it was illusory, it was indeed a huge black Kirin. The light and shadow Kirin in the air and Xieji on the hill were like brothers. Kirin did not have wings, but its body was one size larger than Xieji. The silver-brown hair extended from its neck to its tail, and the black and silver long horns on its head looked extremely powerful. Under its 4 feet there was a cloud, which was purple, blue, red, and green respectively. The faint light and shadow constantly flickered, showing its superior aura. Xieji's body trembled a little. It seemed to be very excited. It suddenly took a few steps back and knelt on the ground with its 2 forelegs. Greetings, Ambassador Kirin. After tens of thousands of years, finally, a new king of Kirin has appeared. The black hair on Qiyu's head fluttered in the wind. His black hair gradually changed from black to silver, and his eyes were as black as ink. A layer of black scales slowly appeared on the surface of his body, and a spiral black and silver long horn drilled out of the top of his head. A low voice came from his mouth. "Who awakened me from my sleep?" The low voice was full of majesty. That was definitely not the voice of Qiyu. Xieji said respectfully, "Great King of Kirin, your servant Xieji respectfully asks for your appearance." 2 cold lights shot out from Qiyu's pure black eyes. Hai Ryue, who was not far away, suddenly found that the pressure emitted from his body at this time could not even be compared to his own firebird. Even a powerful existence like Xieji had to surrender. "Wing Xieji, it seems that you have the most authentic bloodline of Xieji." The low voice sounded again. Qiyu slowly said, "Why did you wake me up?" Xieji said, "Great Kirin King, your bloodline has actually descended to the human world. As a partner and servant of the Kirin clan, I am willing to follow you and serve you." Hai Ryue muttered to herself, "Oh my God! It turns out that the legend of Xieji being the companion of King Kirin is actually true." Qiyu said calmly, "My bloodline has been passed down for hundreds of generations. When I was in deep sleep, I sensed danger, so I chose to appear in this generation's inheritor. My blood vessels had already awakened under the effect of a very powerful Buddhist power. My divine sense will also gradually fuse with this human's body. Wing Xieji, you Xieji magical beasts still remember the promise of your ancestors. Very well, in that case, you will become my successor's shadow from now on. Are you willing?" Hai Ryue didn't understand what King Kirin meant, but Xieji was extremely excited when it heard this sentence. Its huge body trembled slightly. "Thank you, great Kirin King, thank you for giving me this opportunity." This time, its 2 hind claws also bent at the same time, and its whole body was completely lying on the ground. Kirin King said calmly, "You don't have to thank me. The reason why I gave you this opportunity was because I was forced by the situation. The cultivation of the Kirin clan takes a long time. Xieji and Kirin's bloodline are connected. Only with your help can my successor have the strength to face the enemy faster. Although you will forever be in a deep slumber during his lifetime, when you complete your mission, when my successor truly becomes the king of the Qilin clan, your wings will definitely evolve." "Yes, great Kirin King." Xieji lowered its head and lay on the ground motionlessly. Qiyu turned to Hai Ryue and said calmly, "Are you wondering why I appeared? In the inheritance of the Kirin's bloodline, I shouldn't have appeared. However, I am Kirin King. I have a divine sense that ordinary Kirin can't compare to. Therefore, I can stay awake before my successor completely fuses with the breath of Kirin in my bloodline. However, if Xieji didn't appear, I wouldn't have appeared. Later, my successor will sleep for a period of time. As the successor of the dragon, you must protect his safety. Hyrule nodded and said, "He is my partner, I will." The black eyes swept across Hyrue's body. Although her body was covered with solid armor, Hyrule still had a feeling of being seen through. "Do you really think of him as a partner? No matter what kind of person, as long as he is the successor of the Kirin clan, then he will have a strong self-esteem. The seed you put in his heart, when it bears a bitter fruit, only you will have to bear it. There is one thing I want to tell you. In fact, the dragon and Xieji are the same. They both have a certain amount of Kirin's bloodline. As the earliest ancient beast, Kirin has a strong attraction and ability to help strange beasts that have its own bloodline. As for how you choose, it is up to you. Don't mislead others and yourself." Hyrue's face changed slightly and said, "Senior, I don't understand what you mean." Kirin King didn't answer. His body had already floated up, and the shadow of Ink Kirin in the air floated behind him. Kirin King's hands moved in front of his body, and the shadow behind him floated out. In the blink of an eye, it had enveloped Xieji's body. Xieji let out a long and cheerful roar. When its huge body merged with Ink Kirin's shadow, Xieji retracted its wings. Along with the shadow that was a few times larger than it, it also became illusory. Chi Yu's body floated in the air. The Sarira bead on his left hand suddenly emitted a layer of green light. When the image of Xieji, which had merged with the influence of Kirin, came in front of him at the same time, Chi Yu's body seemed to be enlarged in an instant, and the black and silver light instantly flowed into his body. The green light on the Sarira bead floated slightly, moved up his arm, and entered Chi Yu's body through his nostrils. Taking a deep breath, Kirin King exclaimed, "What a strong Buddha nature! With it around, it is enough to stabilize the mind of my successor to accept the final fusion with my bloodline. Little girl, you don't have to tell him anything. All the cultivation and abilities, let him experience it himself. I am going. The Kirin clan will definitely shine again in the Yen Huang land." Ha 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 ha. Chi Yu's body floated to the ground. When his body lay steadily on the ground, the black, silver, and green light converged at the same time. The strong sense of oppression was just like when it appeared, and suddenly disappeared. Chi Yu's eyes closed, and his hair returned to black. The layer of scales on his body also disappeared. At this moment, Hyrule discovered that when the light of Xieji and Kirin merged into Chi Yu's body, all the clothes on his body had turned into powder and disappeared. At this moment, he returned to his original appearance, and his body suddenly became naked. The symbol of a man was presented in front of her without reservation. Perhaps because the Yang Qi was too strong, at this moment, Chi Yu's long spear was pointing to the sky. Hyrule was stunned for a moment before she recovered. The appearance of the soul of Kirin King previously had really surprised her. The Zodiac guardian god had been passed down for so many generations, and this was the first time such a situation had happened. Moreover, where did the 3,000-year-old Xieji go? What did the shadow that Kirin King mentioned mean? Hyrule was very clear that no one could bring her the answer to these questions, not even Zagru. Although Zagru had inherited the Buddha's power of 10 lives, he had not yet fully integrated it. Moreover, he only inherited the Buddha's power, but did not have the memories of the previous masters. This strange situation was really unpredictable. She helplessly lifted Chi Yu up. Perhaps the words left by the soul of Kirin King had a certain effect, or perhaps the breath of Kirin on Chi Yu's body had brought some stimulation to Hyrule. At this time, she no longer held Chi Yu under her armpit, but stretched her arms forward and held him in front of her. Although Hyrule's body was covered with scales, these scales were also transformed from her body. When she came into direct contact with the naked Chi Yu, her heart could not help but beat faster. There was shyness, helplessness, and some indescribable feelings. This seemingly ruffian guy seemed to be changing faster and faster. Just the ability that he suddenly used to attack Xie did not seem to be something that a newly awakened Kirin could do. With a sigh, Hai Ryue flapped the dragon wings on her back and floated up into the sky with Chi Yu's body, heading towards her draconic field courtyard. October was one of the most beautiful seasons in Jing City. Today was October 8. The traditional festival of the Yanwang Republic had just ended. In the early morning, Jing City was a little crowded because office workers and students had to resume their work and study. Qingbei University, as one of the most famous universities in the Yanwang Republic, was as famous as Huajing University. The students in front of the school gate were constantly pouring into the school. A sapphire blue sports car made a beautiful turn in the street not far away and instantly accelerated. With the pleasant sound of the engine, it had already arrived in front of Qingbei University. With a screech, it steadily stopped in front of the school gate. Ah, it's the Lamborghini Batmobile. The sudden appearance of the top-notch sports car immediately caused a commotion in front of the school gate. The gazes of the students were almost uncontrollably attracted by it. Regardless of male or female, all of them were mesmerized by the charming sapphire blue color and fantasized that they could become the owner of this car. The car door opened up and an 18 or 19-year-old youth walked out of the car with a big bag in his hand. Although his appearance was not very handsome, it was very harmonious. With a height of more than 1.8 meters, broad shoulders, and a mischievous smile on his face, it was full of charm under the contrast of the sapphire blue Lamborghini. If it wasn't for the high quality of the students in Qingbei University, perhaps it would have already caused some girls to scream. Of course, even if they screamed, it was mainly for the super sports car. Beautiful girls in Qingbei University, I Qiyu am here. The youth who came out of the car was Qiyu. He looked at the tall school gate in front of him and sighed. Pay attention to your image. Go find Ming Ming first. A cold voice came from the driver's seat in the car. Qiyu turned his head to look at Hai Ryue, who was in the driver's seat, and said, Got it, T-Rex. You can go back. After saying this, he didn't look back and walked into the school. Hai Ryue looked at his back and snorted. She said to herself, This guy is becoming more and more arrogant. It seems that I should consider letting him re-undergo potential development training. After Tian Hai Ryue brought Qiyu back to Longyu Courtyard, Qiyu went into a deep sleep. He slept for 100 days and even missed the start of school. He didn't wake up until the end of September. Since it was going to be a long holiday, he simply waited until the end of the 11th before Hai Ryue brought him to Qingbei University. After Qiyu woke up, there didn't seem to be any changes. He was still the same as before. He was neither cold nor warm to Hai Ryue. He didn't offend her, but he also didn't act close to her. Hai Ryue had imparted the cultivation method of the ascending Qilin law to him over the past 10 days, and Uncle Zhou had also taught Qiyu some of the combat techniques he was proficient in. After sleeping for 100 days, Qiyu was like a big sponge. He changed his previous lazy behavior and quickly absorbed all the knowledge. Of course, this was only in theory. He needed to constantly practice in order to make progress. The reason why Hai Ryue was more tolerant of Qiyu was closely related to his 100 days of sleep. In these 100 days, Hai Ryue tried to delay her work as much as possible. Every day, she cultivated by Qiyu's side. 100 days wasn't long, but it wasn't short either. The Kirin aura on Qiyu's body was much stronger than before. This helped her a lot. She directly cultivated from the middle of the 5th cloud to the late 5th cloud. King Kirin's soul, Xieji Shadow, and Qiyu's awakening ability imperceptibly changed Hai Ryue's attitude towards him. Although Hai Ryue didn't want to admit it, she understood in her heart that Kirin's importance to the Zodiac guardian god was gradually manifesting. Walking through the school gate, Qiyu was immediately attracted by the novel scenery of the campus. He didn't care about the strange gazes of the surrounding students and directly walked into the campus. Qingbei University gave Qiyu a kind of ancient feeling. When Qiyu heard Hai Ryue say that he was going to study here, he was so shocked that his jaw almost dropped. It should be known that Qingbei University was the holy temple of countless students' dreams. When he asked Hai Ryue how she did it, Hai Ryue just calmly said one sentence: "Money makes the world go round." Qingbei University's campus was located in the northwest suburbs of the capital. It was developed on the ruins of several ancient royal gardens. Qingbei University's campus was surrounded by institutions of higher learning and famous gardens. The trees in the gardens were beautiful and the water was clear. The clear Wanquan River meandered through the hinterland, forming many lakes and creeks. Feeling the ancient buildings, all kinds of green plants, and those small lakes in the campus, if he didn't see the words Qingbei University outside, perhaps Qiyu would have thought that he came to a park. Qiyu was walking forward when his eyes suddenly lit up. A young girl who looked slightly older than him was walking towards him. She wore jeans and a white shirt. Her long black hair was combed into a ponytail. She looked fresh and refreshing. She had an oval face and a pair of big watery eyes. Her figure was moderate. Although she couldn't be said to be extremely beautiful, her delicate and pretty face had a bit of an otherworldly aura. She was definitely an impulsive beauty. Her jeans outlined the perfect curve of her lower body. Although the fullness of her chest couldn't be considered fiery, it was just enough to fill a palm. Both her hands held a few thick books as she slowly walked towards his direction. Qiyu was secretly happy in his heart. He didn't think that his luck would be so good. He just arrived at Qingbei University and he already met a little beauty. He can't let go of this kind of opportunity. While thinking, he took large strides towards the young girl. When he was around 5 meters away from the young girl, he intentionally tilted his head to look at the lotus leaves in the lake. If he followed the normal path, his position would just brush past the young girl. Qiyu's calculations were very accurate. His nose just smelled a trace of faint fragrance. Looking at the lotus leaves, he immediately turned around. Like this, his body turned horizontally and his back was facing the young girl. Qiyu's calculations were completely correct. He only felt his back tremble and a light cry came. "Ah. Sorry, I didn't pay attention." Qiyu hurriedly turned around and pretended to be flustered as he said. The book in the young girl's hand fell to the ground due to the collision. Qiyu hurriedly squatted down to pick it up. The young girl was stunned by the collision. She also hurriedly squatted down to pick up her book. Just as she picked up a book, Qiyu also happened to grab that book. The edge of his palm just happened to touch her slender fingers. The young girl's hand retracted and the book fell into Qiyu's hands. Sorry. Qiyu repeatedly apologized. He tried his best to control his gaze from looking at the young girl's sensitive parts. After interacting with Ji Mingming and Hai Ryue, he understood more and more how important a first impression is to a girl. The two of them stood up and got closer. The faint fragrance on the young girl's body couldn't help but make Qiyu a little intoxicated. He handed the book to the young girl and pretended to have an awkward expression as he scratched his head and said, "I'm really sorry. I didn't see you." The young girl's face revealed a trace of a smile. Her voice was very gentle. "It's okay. Pay attention next time. The lotus leaves in autumn are really beautiful." Qiyu's heart was overjoyed. He knew that he had met a gentle beauty. He hurriedly said, "Senior sister, I'm new here. I'm late. Can you tell me how to get to the academic affairs office?" The young girl looked at him strangely and said, "The school's registration time is limited. If you're late, I'm afraid, Qiyu. It's okay. I've already asked someone to help me apply for leave. You just need to tell me where the academic affairs office is." The young girl half turned around and pointed to the back. "Go through the corridor in front of you. Go straight ahead. Turn left and then right. That building is the first floor, room 103. That's the Academic Affairs Office. Thank you, senior sister. I just bumped into you, but you helped me. I'm really sorry. Can I ask senior sister's name? I'll treat you to a meal when I'm free. The young girl covered her mouth and chuckled. You little brats. You're getting more and more tricks. Remember, you have to focus on your studies. After that, she continued to walk in the direction she was supposed to go. Chiyu was really embarrassed this time. He didn't expect that his trick would be seen through by the other party. He looked at the young girl's back and shouted, Senior sister, you haven't told me your name yet. The young girl didn't turn around. Her pleasant voice came. You'll know soon. A good start is half the battle. But this time, it didn't have a good start. Chiyu couldn't help but feel a little depressed. He shook his head helplessly. Fortunately, he got the location of the Academic Affairs Office from the young girl. He tightened the strap of his backpack and strode toward the Academic Affairs Office. Qingbei University Academic Affairs Office. Chiyu stood in front of a big table. Behind the table sat a man who looked to be in his 50s. It was the head of the Academic Affairs Office. He was holding Chiyu's admission letter and carefully looked at it. After a while, he immediately smiled and said, So you're Boss Hai's younger brother. Don't be polite. Please take a seat. Chiyu's legs went soft. He almost fell to the ground. What? That Tyrannosaurus Rex Hai Ryu actually said I'm her younger brother? Fortunately, he calmed down with the Sarira bead. He sat down on the chair in front of the Academic Affairs Office's long table. The head of the Academic Affairs Office smiled and said, Young man, your sister has made a lot of contributions to our school. She also graduated from this school. I hope you can be as outstanding as her. Okay, now tell me what subject you want to study. Your sister didn't choose this for you. Subject? Chiyu hesitated for a moment. He really didn't know what he wanted to study. He didn't even graduate from middle school. He hadn't touched a book for a few years. Entering such a high school directly made him a little confused. When he was young, Chiyu was very eager to learn more knowledge. Even his best brother, Vol, didn't know that when he was in primary school, he was an outstanding student every year. But, as he grew up year by year, he got used to the fickleness of human nature. Although he was only a teenager, he was disappointed in this society. Or rather, he was disappointed in himself. Thus, he chose to fall and gave up. Just now, when he took his first step into Qingbei University's campus, Chiyu suddenly had a feeling of his blood boiling. After all, this was once the place of his dreams. But time had already passed. He was already 19 years old. The things he had left behind were too many. There was already no chance for him to start over. Before coming to Qingbei University, Hai Ryue once told him that letting him come here to study wasn't because she hoped that he could learn anything, but because she wanted him to be able to change his temperament in the learning atmosphere here and learn some philosophy of life. The head of academic affairs was obviously very respectful to Hai Ryue. He said a little too enthusiastically, "Why don't you choose the foreign languages department? Our foreign languages department has been developing vigorously these few years. We need young people like you to join us." Chiyu smiled bitterly in his heart. "I also want to choose the foreign languages department. No matter which university, the foreign languages department would definitely have the most beauties." However, other than knowing the 26 letters, he couldn't even remember the English month. Wouldn't going to the foreign languages department be like listening to a book from heaven? "I've decided," Chiyu said solemnly. The head of academic affairs smiled. "You're choosing the foreign languages department?" "No, I'm choosing the philosophy department." Chiyu's words almost made the head of academic affairs' jaw drop. What did you say? Which department are you choosing?" The head of academic affairs thought that there was something wrong with his ears. Chiyu also smiled. "I'm choosing the philosophy department. Don't you think that I'm a good student with thoughts and morals?" The head of academic affairs looked at the naughty glint in Chiyu's eyes and muttered to himself, "No matter how I look at it, You don't look like a student from the philosophy department. Does Director Hai know about your choice? Chi-yu shrugged his shoulders and said, She said that I'll make my own decisions. She didn't ask me for anything. After asking again and again, the head of academic affairs was sure that Chi-yu wasn't joking. He had no choice but to handle the admission procedures for him. The philosophy department has 8 main subjects. You'll major in one subject every semester. You can also choose some subjects from other departments to take as an elective. Director Hai has already paid your fees. From tomorrow onwards, you can officially go to class. Your dormitory is in the school's dormitory area, Building 11, Room 603. It's a 4-bedroom and 1 living room shared with 3 other students. You can collect your books later and familiarize yourself with the school environment. Welcome to Qingbei University. Walking out of the academic affairs office, Chi-yu clearly felt much more relaxed. He inwardly laughed. I'm afraid that Hai Ryue would never expect that he would choose the philosophy department. When she finds out, she might fly into a rage. Suddenly, his phone rang. Before he came to school, Hai Ryue had already given him a charger. Now, Chi-yu could be considered to have a real phone. Looking at the number on the phone, Chi-yu couldn't help inwardly sighing. Speak of the devil. T-Rex, you're calling me right after we separated? Could it be that you've already fallen in love with me? The moment the call connected, Chi-yu teased. Chi-yu's judgment was right. Right now, Hai Ryue was flying into a rage. Her voice came from the phone and could be heard within a 10-meter radius. Chi-yu, you bastard! Who allowed you to choose the philosophy department? Don't you know that the philosophy department has no future? Do you think Qingbei University is a kindergarten? I've spent so much effort to get you in. You're good. You actually chose such a lousy subject. Chi-yu snappily said, Hey, lower your voice. I'm not deaf. I can hear you. What's wrong with the philosophy department? Didn't you say that you want me to come to Qingbei University to learn how to be a person? Isn't philosophy just like that? What's better than this? You also know that I'm an unemployed youth who didn't even graduate from junior high. What department do you want me to choose? Don't tell me you want me to listen to the Bible? Alright. I've already chosen. It's decided. Oh right. Boss Hai, I still have a question. When did you become my sister? If I really had a T-Rex sister like you, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to live to this age. Waha. After saying the last sentence filled with sarcasm, Chi-yu immediately hung up the phone. His heart was filled with joy. He finally left Hai Ryue's side. Now she can't come and find trouble with him, right? He has always been a person who adapts to circumstances. What will happen to Hai Ryue in the future is a matter for the future. Feeling relaxed and happy, he followed the guidance of the Dean of Academic Affairs and went to get his book. After asking around, he walked back to his dormitory. Qingbei University is worthy of being one of the best universities in the entire Yanhuang Republic. The various facilities in the campus are extremely complete. Chi-yu is very satisfied with the environment here. However, he is not satisfied with the things that he was looking forward to. Other than the impulsive girl that he saw when he first entered the school, the entire journey was filled with frightening girls. His pair of perverted eyes could only put on the appearance of a gentleman. Without looking sideways, he walked towards the direction of the dorm that he inquired about. Qingbei University's dorm building can't be said to be luxurious. However, it gives people a refreshing feeling. No matter if it is the floor or the walls, there is not a speck of dust. The windows are bright and clean. One look and you can tell that someone has carefully cleaned it. The dorm building has 18 floors. Chi-yu's dorm is on the 6th floor. Although it is currently class time, there are some students who don't have classes that are still walking around the dorm building. Taking the elevator directly to the 6th floor, Chi-yu walked to the door of his dorm. After confirming that the number 603 is correct, he then picked up the key that was given to him by the Academic Affairs Office to open the door. As soon as he entered, Chi-yu heard an unusual sound. And, be gentle. Faster, faster. For a hooligan who has seen thousands of AVs and has a wealth of theoretical experience, this sound can't be more familiar. Oh my God! Could it be that I accidentally came to some Japanese AV set? Chi-yu carefully placed his luggage on the floor and quietly walked towards the direction of the sound. The dorm is just like what the Academic Affairs Office said. It is a house with 4 bedrooms and 1 living room. There are 2 bathrooms and a large kitchen. The sound is coming from one of the bedrooms. Chi-yu carefully came to the bedroom door and looked in through the crack of the door. Immediately, he saw a scene that makes his blood boil. It is not a secret between a man and a woman as he imagined. Chi-yu is dumbstruck to see 2 fair-skinned women who are completely naked touching each other. Their appearance is extremely beautiful. They both have beautiful long hair. One of them has black hair and the other has dyed it a wine red. Chi-yu has seen many naked women in AVs, but this is his first time seeing a real naked woman at such a close distance. His nose feels warm and he almost vomits blood. Fair and slender jade legs, flawless jade back, delicate and lovely perky buttocks all attract Chi-yu's beastly blood. Even the 2 girls are extremely intoxicated as they groan and touch each other. They don't even notice that there is a ruffian with burning eyes outside. I can't, I'm going to die. Chi-yu only felt a burst of dryness in his mouth. How he wished that he could immediately rush in and become the main character among them. He wants to be the king and 2 queens. But he found that his legs feel like they have been drilled. Although his heart longs for it, he can't take these few short steps no matter what. Chapter 13. The 2 girls in the room were in various positions. Due to their excitement, their delicate skin was covered with a layer of faint pink. Their hands kept moving faster and faster. Chi-yu didn't know how long he had been standing there. Finally, 2 excited screams rang out almost at the same time. In the midst of trembling, their movements finally stopped. The sound of heavy panting could be heard. The 2 girls seemed to be very tired. They hugged each other and lay on the bed. Both of them looked happy. Chi-yu swallowed a mouthful of saliva. He knew that he could not watch any longer. He hurriedly tiptoed towards the dormitory door. Perhaps it was because of his guilty conscience, or perhaps it was because he had stood for too long, but his legs were a little stiff. Chi-yu had only taken 3 steps when his legs suddenly tripped over each other. He staggered and immediately bumped into a table in the hall, producing an ear-piercing sound. "Who is it?" A frightened voice came from the room. What followed was the sound of clothes being put on. Chi-yu's reaction was not slow. He quickly ran to the dormitory door and knocked on it a few times. He pretended that nothing had happened. "Is anyone here? Who said that women took a long time to put on clothes?" Chi-yu had just knocked a few times when the girl with wine-red hair from the previous bedroom walked out. Her hair was combed into a simple ponytail, but it looked a little messy. She wore a short skirt and a loose t-shirt. Obviously, because she was in a hurry, her clothes were unbuttoned. Chi-yu could even see the 2 firm buds that were nervously maintained. There were 2 cute dimples on the girl's pretty face. Although she tried her best to remain calm, the panic in her eyes couldn't be hidden from a discerning eye. How did you get in? Who are you?" The girl looked very nervous. She picked up a glass bottle from the table with a backhand. Chi-yu was startled. He also felt guilty. He quickly said, "Hello, I'm a new student. I should be staying here." As he said that, he waved the key in his hand. "Nonsense, this is the female dormitory. How could a guy like you live here?" The young girl's hand that was holding the glass bottle was already raised, as if she was going to fight for her life. At this time, another young girl also walked out of the room. She was a little taller than the first girl, about 1.7 meters tall. She wore a pink shirt, and her long black hair draped over her back. In terms of disguise, she was obviously better. She hurriedly said to the young girl who raised the bottle, "Ching-er, ask clearly first." Chi-yu smiled bitterly. "This is really my dormitory. Otherwise, how could I open the door with the key? Did the dean give me the wrong key? The girl called Qing asked nervously, How long have you been here? Qiyu hurriedly said, I just came in. Aren't you just knocking on the door? Qing'er heaved a sigh of relief and put down her raised hand. The girl in the pink shirt looked at the table that was slightly moved with a meaningful gaze. Qiyu asked curiously, Is this really the female dormitory? How is that possible? Even if the school was more open now, it would not allow boys and girls to live together. Qing'er snorted and said, Why would I lie to you? The school's dormitory from the 1st to the 9th floor are all female dormitories. The male dormitory is only above that. Tell me honestly, where did you get the key? Oh, I know. Are you Ming Ming's boyfriend? Ming Ming? Which Ming Ming are you talking about? Is it Ji Ming Ming? Qiyu's heart slightly moved. Of course. So you really are Ming Ming's boyfriend. That girl is too bold. She actually gave you the key and let you into our dormitory. She's almost out of class anyway. We'll interrogate her when she comes back. Qiyu shrugged his shoulders and walked to the table to pull out a chair and sat down. I still haven't asked for the names of the two beauties. Qing'er's nervousness had clearly disappeared. She snorted and said, Why should I tell you? You can't tell. You don't have anything outstanding about you. Why would Ming Ming like you? She is one of the two beauties of our Qingbei University. Qiyu asked curiously, Two beauties? Aren't there three beauties? Including the two of you, it should be three. As the saying goes, flattery doesn't work. Hearing Qiyu's words, the two girls' expressions clearly eased up. Qing'er snorted and said, Fine. My name is Su Qing. I'm the same as Ming Ming. I'm from the Foreign Languages Department. She is Shen Yun, the beauty of the High Energy Physics Department. The two of us are not among the two beauties. What about you? What's your name? It's already October. Why did you just enter the school? Qiyu never needed a draft when he lied. Hello, my name is Qiyu. Because I got sick a few days ago, I entered the school a bit late. I'm a new student in the philosophy department. As he said that, his eyes were already roaming around the two beauties' delicate bodies. Thinking of the fire-breathing scene from before, Qiyu's heartbeat couldn't help but speed up. Su Qing looked at Qiyu, whose eyes were sparkling. What are you looking at? Haven't you seen a beauty before? Good, Ming Ming. When she comes back, see how I'll deal with her. She actually let a man into our dorm. Just as Qiyu was about to get close to the two beauties, the dorm door opened. Ming Ming, dressed in casual clothes, walked in from outside. She held a simple book bag with a few books in it. As soon as she pushed the door open, she was busy changing her slippers. As she did so, she said, Qing Qing, you ran away again today. The teacher said that if you don't go next time, your credits for this semester will be 0. Hey Qiyu, you're here so soon. After changing her slippers, she saw Qiyu looking at her with a faint smile. Ji Ming Ming. Su Qing roared angrily. You damned girl, you actually let your boyfriend come to our dorm without telling us in advance. You know. Speaking up to here, she couldn't help but blush and steal a glance at Shen Yun. Ji Ming Ming's face also turned red. Qing Qing, don't talk nonsense. Qiyu is my cousin, not my boyfriend. Qiyu stood up and said with a smile, If you're willing, it's not a problem for you to make a guest appearance. By the way, since this is the female dorm, why did the administration give me the key to this dorm? It can't be that you want me to live with you, right? Ji Ming Ming said snappily, That sounds so bad. What do you mean live together? It can only be said to live under the same roof. Shen Yun said in shock, Ming Ming, you can't be serious, right? This is the female dorm, how can a man live here? Ji Ming Ming walked a few steps to Shen Yun's side and whispered something in her ear. Her eyes had a pleading look. Hearing her words, Shen Yun's expression eased a little, but the way she looked at Qiyu was a little strange. So that's how it is, no wonder. Su Qing said, Sister Yun, it can't be. Do you really want this guy to live here? Yun whispered something in Su Qing's ear. Su Qing's expression also changed, and the way she looked at Qi Yu also became strange. So it's like this. Then he's quite pitiful. He's not much of a threat to us, but I still feel a little strange letting a man live here. Ming Ming pulled Su Qing's hand and pleaded, Good Qing, don't worry, I'll definitely take good care of him. I won't let him hinder our lives. I have no other choice. If it wasn't for that reason, the school wouldn't have agreed to let him live in our female dorm. Su Qing and Yun looked at each other and said, All right, but if he wants to live here, we have to add a few rules. After all, he's a man. Ming said happily, No problem, I'll agree on his behalf. Qiyu was confused by their attitude. Just as he was about to ask, he was pulled into another bedroom by Ming. The layout of the bedroom was very simple. There was a computer desk, a laptop, a single bed, a desk and some books and 2 wardrobes. Ming, what did you say to them just now? Do I really have to live here? Although Qiyu felt strange, he couldn't help but be a little excited. He could live with 3 beauties. Although they each had their own bedroom, they would often see each other. If something happened outside, it would be reasonable. Especially the other 2 beauties were obviously very open, Ming said in a low voice. Lower your voice. Don't let them hear you. You know how hard it was for me to convince them. Also, you have to cooperate. I told them that you're not in good health and have physiological defect. You need someone to take care of you. As your cousin, I can only let you live with me so that it's convenient to take care of you. Qiyu smiled lewdly and said, No problem. You can say whatever defects you want. If I live with you, this bed seems a little small. Ming knocked Qiyu's head hard and said angrily, What are you thinking? You big pervert. I'm warning you, you better be careful. I let you live here because you're Kirin. Now, only I can be by your side to protect you. This is my responsibility as a Zodiac guardian. Don't think too much. Qiyu said painfully, I understand. Don't worry. I've already said that you're my good brother. How can I think too much? But it's not a problem if I think too much about your 2 good sisters, right? Oh, by the way, what did you tell them about my physical defects? Ming chuckled and said, I told them that you have a congenital heart disease and have homosexual tendencies. In order for you to take care of your body and not come into contact with men outside, I specially let you stay here to experience the atmosphere of the opposite sex. What? You actually said that I'm gay? Qiyu said angrily. Ming smiled and said, Of course, if I didn't say that, do you think you can live here so easily? If Qingqing and Big Sister Yun reported to the school, no matter how powerful Big Sister Ryue is, it's impossible for her to let you live with us girls. You don't know, but Big Sister Yun and Qingqing have been classmates since elementary school. From middle school to high school, all the way until they were admitted to Qingbei University, they were always together. I saw that there seemed to be some ambiguity between the 2 of them, so I said that you're gay, so that I can gain some sympathy. Qiyu righteously said, As a man, being called a homosexual by a great beauty like you is definitely the greatest humiliation to me. If I can endure it, what can I do? Ming snorted and said, Then are you going to bear it or not? Qiyu looked at the bedroom and said with a wretched smile, Then I'll bear it. In order to promote the growth of the cohabiting beauty, in order to promote the unity of the students in Qingbei University, I'll bear it. Ming made a vomiting expression, You're so disgusting, you pervert. God is really blind to actually let you become Kirin's successor. Qiyu said with concern, Ming, how many months has it been? Do you want me to take you to the hospital? No matter what, it's a new life. You must not go for an abortion. If it really can't be done, I'll take the responsibility and be a cheap father. Ming was stunned for a moment, then immediately understood. She frowned and said, Scram? Qiyu felt wronged and said, I'm just worried about you. Why are you so fierce? I'm so good to you. I'm willing to take responsibility for anything that isn't mine. You! Ji Ming burst out laughing. I really can't do anything to a shameless hooligan like you. Chi Yu laughed and said, chasing a woman, you have to be bold, careful, and thick-skinned. This is the traditional secret. As the saying goes, if a man isn't bad, a woman won't love him. If a man isn't a hooligan, a woman won't sleep with him. Alright, get out of here. Your bedroom is right across from mine. Ji Ming really couldn't stand it, but she didn't know why. Although Chi Yu's words were vulgar, it only made her feel relaxed and not disgusted. Chi Yu was pushed out of the door by Ming. Before closing the door, she said to him, Sister Ryue told me that your identity is special. If you want to go somewhere, you must call me. I have to protect you at all times. Also, since I told them that you're gay, don't look at them with that kind of perverted eyes. Restrain yourself, or you'll be kicked out of the house sooner or later. Yes, cute cousin, I understand. Although he was said to be gay, Chi Yu was in a good mood. He was excited to be able to live with 3 beautiful women. Chi Yu's bedroom was dark. There was no sunlight. After all, he couldn't fight with a few girls. But the room was very spacious. The layout inside was the same as Ji Ming's room. Even the bedding was brand new. Chi Yu thought about it and understood that Ming knew that he was coming and specially prepared it for him. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but feel a bit warm in his heart. He opened his bag and hung the brand new clothes in the cabinet. These clothes naturally weren't what he originally had. They were specially bought for him by Hai Ryue according to his height and figure. Originally, Chi Yu didn't want it, but Hai Ryue said that after he graduated, he would return it to her. So, Chi Yu had no choice but to accept it. Although he didn't have a good impression of Hai Ryue, he still had to give some face to his new master, Uncle Zhou. As soon as he finished packing, there was a knock on the bedroom door. Ming. No need to knock, come in. Chi Yu said carelessly. The door opened, but the person who came in was not Ming. Su Qing walked into the room with a piece of paper in her hand. Looking at Chi Yu, she raised her head and said, Here, this is the rules of the dormitory I just wrote. If you don't follow it in the future, we will kick you out. Chi Yu took the paper and saw that there were 10 rules written on it. First, don't make noise in the dormitory. Don't bring men back to the dormitory. Second, wash your feet when you return to the dormitory. Don't peek at your roommate's clothes. Third, if you want to take a bath, you have to submit an application 1 day in advance. Fourth, don't fight with others to go to the bathroom. If everyone wants to go, you have to be the last. Fifth, don't enter other people's rooms unless invited. Sixth, don't smoke or drink in the dormitory. Seventh, don't stay out all night without permission. Looking at the strict rules of the specific place to wash your underwear and the time to go to the bathroom, Chi Yu said with grief and indignation, It's been so many years since the liberation, why do you still want me to sign the Nanjing Treaty? Can there be a few less, this? What less? Do you want to do it or not, just say it. If you don't want to do it, move out immediately and live wherever you want. Su Qing's temper was obviously very bad, and there was no room for negotiation. Chi Yu smiled bitterly. I will sign it, okay? I will endure it again. What do you mean by enduring it? You don't know how many men want to live with us 3 beauties. It's good that we didn't ask you to wash our clothes and cook for us. The school has a cafeteria, you can eat there. We all open our own food. Of course, if you want to eat together, you have to pay for the food and wash the dishes. Chi Yu hesitated for a moment before asking, How much is the food fee? Su Qing thought for a moment and said, Our monthly food expenses are about 1,000 yuan, and it's all done by Sister Yun, so Sister Yun's food expenses are relatively less. Ming and I are girls, so we eat less, so you pay 500 yuan a month. Fair, right? Of course, don't forget to wash the dishes. Chi Yu scratched his head and shook it firmly and said, I will go to the cafeteria to eat. I won't mix with you. Oh my God! The monthly food expenses are 500 yuan, and there is also a room charge here. My social relief is not enough. Although Ryue has already paid the tuition, I can't ask her for money again. As a man, Chi-yu still has this bit of backbone. He resisted the temptation to taste the beauty's cooking and refused Su Qing's proposal. Su Qing was a little surprised and said, "Sister Yun's cooking is very delicious. Don't you want to try it?" Chi-yu shook his head and said, "Since I was young, what I'm most afraid of is washing the dishes. Forget it. Moreover, I eat a lot, so eating in the cafeteria is more suitable. I heard that Qingbei University's cafeteria doesn't limit the amount of rice and steamed buns you can eat, as long as you don't waste it." Su Qing looked at Chi-yu with a puzzled expression. She knew how powerful Ming Ming's family was. Since they accepted Chi-yu to live here, they had to squeeze a little from him. Otherwise, wouldn't they, the beauties, suffer a loss? Although the contract she wrote was mostly a hard and fast rule, but there was also an element of joking with Chi-yu. For this new roommate, Su Qing, because of the previous awkwardness, so she gave him a show of strength. But she didn't think that Chi-yu would refuse so decisively, and even said that he didn't like washing dishes. At this time, she saw a bit of helplessness in Chi-yu's eyes. Perhaps it was because Ji Ming said that her cousin has a congenital heart disease, so she didn't want to play anymore. "Okay, then do as you wish. The rent will be split between the four of us, 400 yuan per month. When the time comes, you can teach it to Sister Yun." Su Qing left, and Chi-yu sat on his bed in a somewhat dispirited manner. He smashed his fist on the bed and cursed in his heart. "A penny really stumps a hero. It seems that I really have to earn some money when I have the opportunity." But when he thought of money, he suddenly slapped his head. "Oh right, I have an appointment with Vol this afternoon. How could I forget about this? I have to leave quickly." After Chi-yu woke up from his deep sleep, he immediately contacted Vol. Naturally, he couldn't tell Vol the truth. He just told Vol that he met a relative and was going to sponsor him to go to university. Vol was now attending classes at a private school. Coincidentally, his school was only 20 minutes away from Qingbei University, and he could reach it directly by walking. Today, Chi-yu came to report. He expected that he wouldn't be going to class immediately, so he specifically called Vol to meet. The two brothers haven't seen each other for a few months. If it wasn't for Vol's help, so many things wouldn't have happened to him. For this good brother, Chi-yu has always been grateful. "Ming, I have to go out for a while." After Chi-yu put down all his luggage, he suddenly felt relaxed. He walked out of his bedroom and greeted Ming's room. The door opened and Ming stuck her head out. "What are you going to do? Familiarize yourself with the campus environment? Then I'll take you there." Chi-yu shook his head and said, "No, I'm going to meet a friend. Do you still want to go with me?" Ming said, "Can I not go? Besides, if you get sick on the road, someone has to send you to the hospital." Chi-yu rolled his eyes and said, "Do as you wish. Anyway, it's not a painful thing to travel with a beauty. We'll go now. It's already noon. I'll treat you to lunch. Thank you for the betting." He wasn't a generous person, but he understood the principle of repaying kindness. Ever since Ming beat up Yan Xiaoi for him last time, he wanted to find an opportunity to repay it. Ming smiled and said, "Okay. Then let's go." After that, she didn't change her clothes. She still wore her casual clothes and walked out of the bedroom. Su Qing and Xin Yun were watching TV in the living room. Seeing the two of them going out, Xin Yun smiled and said, Ming, come back early. We have a new member today. I'll cook something delicious for you in the evening." Ming smiled and said, "That's great. I love to eat Sister Yun's food. We've only lived together for a month, and I feel that I've gained some weight." Su Qing looked at Ming with some jealousy and said, "Be careful that I don't tickle you. Are you trying to make me angry? Look at your thin waist. You're still fat. Let's go. We don't want to be the third wheel." Chi-yu thought in his heart, You don't want us to be the third wheel. However, although he was lascivious, he wasn't despicable. What he saw was seen. He didn't have so much mouth to talk about women behind their back. The two left the dormitory and walked out of the school along the tree-lined avenue in the campus. Ji Ming walked in the school like a dazzling star. Although she wore very simple clothes, her natural beauty that couldn't be concealed still attracted the eyes of countless male students. Most of their eyes were infatuated. Of course, this infatuated gaze would turn into jealousy and anger when it turned to Chiyu. As one of the two beauties in the school, this was the first time that Ji Ming walked with a male student in public. Ming, you see, in our Yanwang Republic, I'm not the only pervert. There are so many people looking at you. While walking, Chiyu couldn't help but tease Ming. Ji Ming snorted disdainfully and said, "Don't give me that. That's a look of admiration. What about you? You're naked. Fortunately, your eyes don't have any ability. Otherwise, I really doubt that you can take off someone's clothes with your eyes." Chiyu said with yearning, "That's the ability that I'm looking forward to the most." Ji Ming said impatiently, "All right, let's go. Didn't you say that it's almost the appointed time? I also want to see what kind of good brother you are." At this moment, Chiyu's heart suddenly trembled. His gaze froze in front of him. Why is he here? Ji Ming followed his gaze and saw a young man walking on the main road from a fork in the road. Beside him were a few beautiful female students who were talking and laughing along the way. This handsome young man was none other than Chiyu's old enemy, Yan Xiaoi. Ji Ming said in a low voice, "I've long discovered that he's also in Qing Bay. This guy is from the computer department. How did you offend such a person? His father can be said to have power and influence in the capital. Moreover, he has also practiced martial arts. According to my classmates in the department, he's also a computer genius. Now, there are many female students in the school who view him as a Prince Charming." Chiyu snorted and said, "Isn't this guy just a bit handsome? Haven't you heard that a pretty boy has no good intentions?" Ji Ming giggled and said, "Someone seems to be jealous. Oh right, look at him wearing a hat again. Since the first time I saw him in Qing Bay, he seems to have always been like this. In the past, he always wore a hat, and this is a ski hat. Now he's not afraid of the heat." Chiyu said doubtfully, "I've seen this guy twice before. He doesn't wear a hat. Could it be that he was disfigured by me using a brick last time? It can't be, it shouldn't be that serious." Ji Ming said, "All right, it's better to avoid trouble. If he doesn't provoke you, you also don't provoke him. Right now, your task is to study hard and cultivate well." Chiyu shrugged his shoulders and said with a smile, "Don't be afraid. Now that I have a super bodyguard like you by my side, what do I have to be afraid of? What's more, if it's just him alone, he might not be able to beat me. Have you heard of the brick-breaking martial art?" Ji Ming covered her mouth and chuckled and said, "Then let's try it another day. I want to see such a unique skill of yours." "Forget it, I don't have masochistic tendencies." Chiyu had seen Ji Ming's strength. Although she was not as domineering as Hai Ryue, he could see from how she easily knocked down more than 20 young men last time that she was far from being comparable to him. What's more, Hai Ryue said that Ming was already at Sanyun. If she used origin mutation, he would be even more incomparable. The two of them left the school one after another with Yan Xiaoi. Yan Xiaoi took a taxi first. Ming originally wanted to take a taxi, but Chiyu said that he wanted to walk to exercise his body. In the end, the two of them could only rely on their legs to walk to Vol's school. "Chiyu, I heard from Sister Ryue that you encountered Xieji, and that Xieji even ran into your body. Do you feel anything special?" Ji Ming asked curiously. Chiyu said helplessly, "I don't feel anything. When I attacked Xieji, I suddenly felt my body heat up, and then I lost consciousness. When I woke up, T-Rex told me that 100 days had passed. I found that I can sleep more and more. Could it be that Qilin could sleep like this? It was more than 30 hours on the train, and when I arrived at Segru's place, it became more than 30 days. When I finally came back, I slept for another 100 days. Ming Ming said thoughtfully, this should be the transformation of the body after waking up. Our Zodiac Guardian also needs to sleep for 49 days after waking up, but it's not as strange as you. Qi Yu said, how long does it take for the Zodiac Guardian to cultivate to the one cloud realm after waking up? Ming Ming said, it's very fast for us to cultivate to the one cloud realm. After all, the Zodiac Guardian has to devote itself to our responsibilities as soon as possible after awakening. It will take about 3 months for it to reach the one cloud realm. At that time, its combat power will be far from that of ordinary people. It has been 3 years since I woke up, and I happen to be at the 3 clouds. It's not that fast. But Sister Ryue is even more exaggerated. It has only been 6 years since she woke up, and she already has the strength of the 5 clouds. You have to know that every time you increase by 1 cloud, the difficulty of cultivation increases exponentially. Qi Yu said with some envy, if only I can also reach the 3 clouds realm, then I won't be a burden to you. Ming Ming smiled and said, don't say that. You will be a great help to us. Don't worry, take your time. Walking with Qi Yu, although they didn't touch each other, she felt that the strange energy was stimulating the thundercloud force in her body to accelerate its growth. This feeling was very wonderful. Ming Ming knew that if she could be with Qi Yu like this all the time, then her cultivation speed would almost double. But she was a girl after all, so it was impossible. Chapter 14. Boss. Vol's voice came from the roadside. Qi Yu looked towards the direction of the voice and saw Vol sitting at a roadside stall eating. The aroma of the barbecued mutton skewers stimulated Qi Yu's taste buds. In the past, he liked to eat mutton skewers by the roadside, drink cold beer, and smoke a few cigarettes. That was definitely the life of an immortal. Vol wiped the grease on his hands. His eyes were full of excitement. Qi Yu walked a few steps to Vol and patted his broad shoulder. Good brother. Between brothers, there is no need to say any words of gratitude. Simple eye contact is enough. Qi Yu sat next to Vol, picked up Vol's beer, and drank half of it in one breath. Exhilarating. This is exhilarating. Qi Yu put down the bottle. He hasn't felt so good for a long time. When he looked at Vol again, he found that Vol's eyes were fixed on him, and Ji Ming Ming sat opposite to Vol. Qi Yu couldn't help but feel proud. After all, the beauty came with him. Brother, let me introduce you. This is the relative I mentioned, my cousin Ming Ming. You can call her Sister Ming Ming. Vol swallowed his saliva and said with some difficulty, Boss, are you sure she is your cousin? You two don't look alike at all. Listening to Vol's words, Ming Ming couldn't help but laugh. Yes. Of course I don't look like him. If I look like him, I'm afraid I won't be able to get married in the future. Hello, Vol, I heard Qi Yu mention you several times. Vol hurriedly said, Hello, Sister Ming Ming. It's the first time I've seen such a beautiful sister like you in my life. Ji Ming Ming smiled and said, Vol really knows how to talk. By the way, this shouldn't be your real name, right? Vol said awkwardly, You can just call me Vol. My real name doesn't sound good. Qi Yu suddenly burst into laughter. Ming Ming asked in surprise, What are you laughing at? What's the name of Vol? Qi Yu chuckled and said, If you have the chance, bribe me and I will tell you. TSK whatever. It's fine if you don't want to say it. Although she really wanted to know, when she saw Qi Yu's smug look, she couldn't help but pout. Vol smiled bitterly and said, Sister Ming Ming, don't be angry. I'll be honest. My surname is Tian and my name is Bo Guang. Ji Ming Ming opened her mouth wide, then covered her mouth with her hand, trying hard not to laugh out loud. Vol said helplessly, Now you know why I can't call you by your real name. I don't like to go to school, and this name is a big reason. It's okay in elementary school, but in middle school, Who hasn't read Jean Dasha's books? I'm so depressed. Chi-yu took out a stack of money from his pocket and gave it to Vol, saying, "This is 15,000 yuan. I spent some of the money you gave me last time and left some. This is for you first. When I make money in the future, I'll pay you back double. Oh yes, and my phone." Vol was a little angry and said, "Boss, what are you doing? You're my brother, don't be like this." Chi-yu said, "All right, now that I'm back, I'm not short of money. Didn't you see that I found a rich relative?" Vol refused to take it no matter what. After a few more rejections and Chi-yu's insistence, he reluctantly took back the money, but left the phone for Chi-yu to use. Originally, Chi-yu wanted to eat at another place, but Ming said there was no need. She also wanted to try the taste of the roadside stalls. The three of them ordered a bunch of meat skewers, and Chi-yu unscrupulously ordered a few bottles of beer. He had always been a big fan of alcohol. Perhaps it was because of the words of his smoking big brother, who said that if you don't smoke or drink, you're not as good as a dog. Chi-yu had just eaten a few mutton skewers, and he looked across the road and said in a strange tone, "Hey, why do I see that guy again? It's really King Hell." Across the road, a man and a woman were walking in their direction. The man was Yan Xiaoi, whom he had seen at the school gate, and the woman was a beauty that Chi-yu had never seen before. However, he suddenly found a problem. When his good brother, Vol, saw the beauty, his eyes froze. It was not a lustful look, but a strange, affectionate light. He completely forgot about the beer he was pouring, and he didn't even notice that a lot of it had spilled. This was the first time that Chi-yu saw Vol with such an expression. "Vol, don't tell me that you like the woman with Yan Xiaoi." Chi-yu slapped his good brother hard, and Vol came back to his senses. "Boss, that woman is not Yan Xiaoi. She is a teacher at our school. Her name is Mod, and she is Yan Xiaoi's cousin. She is 24 years old this year, and she is recognized as the most beautiful woman in our school. I think I am in love with her." Vol's eyes were shining. At this time, he was completely obsessed with her. Chi-yu laughed and said, "I say, Rat, how old are you this year? I remember you are 16 or 15. She is 8 or 9 years older than you. Do you think it's realistic?" Vol protested, "Age is not a gap. When I first saw her, I was unconsciously attracted to her temperament. I don't know why, but every movement of hers is so attractive to me. Boss, you have to help me. This is the first time in my life that I have a crush on someone. Teacher Modi likes to come here often to eat grilled chicken wings. That's why I come here every day to eat, just to see her more." Chi-yu was stunned for a moment. Field Mouse had clearly fallen too deeply. Although Chi-yu liked beauties, he had never known what true love felt like. Looking at his good brother's appearance, he could not help but smile bitterly. "How can I help you with this? Don't tell me we should get some drugs and rape her?" "Chi-yu, watch your mouth. They are already here," Ming said with some dissatisfaction. Sure enough, Yan Xiaoi and Modi had arrived at the roadside stall. At this time, they finally noticed the existence of Chi-yu and the others. Yan Xiaoi, who was wearing a ski cap on his head, suddenly changed his face. "Good. You are actually here." Although he said it to Chi-yu, his eyes flickered a little as he looked at Ming. Ming had left a deep impression on him that day. Chi-yu snorted coldly and said, "Does this place belong to your family? Why can't I be here? Yan Xiaoi, do you want to know why the flowers are so red? I can satisfy your little desire." As he said, he also squeezed his hand, making a cracking sound. As they got closer, Chi-yu could not help but look at Vol's crush. This woman named Modi seemed to be about the same age as Tyrannosaurus Rex Root. Like Ming, she also had clean short hair. In terms of appearance, she was not as good as Ming. At most, she was similar to the other two roommates in the girls' dormitory. But she also had her own strange thing, which was her legs. Chi-yu always liked to look at women from the bottom up. When he saw Modi's legs, he could not help but be a little stunned. Generally speaking, the ratio of leg length to height reached the golden ratio of 0.618 was obviously the most beautiful. But this woman named Modi in front of him, from the visual observation, the ratio of her leg length to height was definitely more than 0.7. That pair of amazing slender legs wore ordinary trousers, but it looked so soul-stirring. What made Chi-Yu most strange was that her legs were so long, but there was not the slightest sense of incongruity. Her height was similar to Ming Ming, but the feeling of slender legs was even more. She was a very strange beauty. No wonder the vole took a fancy to her. "Is it you who hurt my brother's head?" Modi's soft eyes fell on Chi-Yu, but it seemed a little cold. Chi-Yu raised his head and said, "Yes, it was me." Modi did not pay any more attention to Chi-Yu, looked at Vole, and said, "Tian Bo Guang, why are you here again? The school does not allow students to leave school at noon. Don't you know that? Now go back to school immediately." Vole did not look like he was with Chi-Yu at all. Instead, he looked like a good student, lowering his head and not saying a word. Chi-Yu curled his lips and said, "This is not the school, don't show off your teacher's power." Just as he said this, Vole whispered in his ear, "Boss, Teacher Modi teaches us sports. I heard that she is the national champion of Taekwondo." Chi-Yu was stunned for a moment. It can't be. Why is it that every woman I meet is more powerful than the last? Does that mean that Teacher Modi wants to avenge your brother? As he spoke, his gaze unconsciously shifted towards Modi's long legs. Modi ignored Chi-Yu, still looked at Vole and said, "Tian Bo Guang, please go back to school immediately, otherwise, I will take you to the academic affairs office." Vole raised his head and looked at Modi blankly, but he shook his head and said, "I'm sorry, Teacher Modi, I can't go back now. Chi-Yu is my big brother, and I also had a part in beating up Yan Xiaoi. If you want revenge, then count me in." Although he was only 16 years old this year, Vole obviously attached more importance to his brotherhood than to his crush. Modi's eyes flashed coldly, and he turned to Chi-Yu and said, "Originally, I didn't want to get involved in the matter between you and Xiao Yi, but do you know how much damage you have done to him? Today I have to get justice for Xiao Yi. Tian Bo Guang, since you don't want to leave, then you can come with me." As he said this, he turned around and walked out with Yan Xiaoi. Chi-Yu snorted coldly, immediately stood up, backhanded a wine bottle, and followed them out. He never knew what fear was. In the face of Hai Ryue's irresistible attack, he never gave in, let alone Yan Xiaoi and his brother. Ming Ming helplessly followed behind Chi-Yu with Vole. She didn't care about these things. It was her responsibility to protect Chi-Yu, not to mention that Chi-Yu was now her friend. On both sides of the wide road were tall trees with lush branches and leaves. Under the sunlight, they brought a layer of uneven tree shadows to the mainland. On the left side of the road was the school where Vole was. The tall walls blocked people's view, and they couldn't see what was happening inside. On the right side of the road, there was a slope that went down for more than 3 meters and was full of sparse trees. Modi and Yan Xiaoi stopped on the right side of the road. Seeing that Chi-Yu and the others followed, they walked down the slope. Yan Xiaoi looked back at Chi-Yu with resentment and whispered something to Modi, but Modi didn't say anything, as if he didn't hear it. The 5 people came down the slope. Chi-Yu with Vole and Ming Ming stopped 5 meters away from Modi and his brother. He held the beer bottle in his right hand and knocked it on the palm of his left hand. "Tell me, Mr. Modi, how do you want to solve this? I, Chi-Yu, am here to accompany you to the end." Modi suddenly exuded a cold aura, and even Ming Ming couldn't help but be surprised. She took a step forward and blocked Chi-Yu's body. "Chi-Yu, your Hetian Bo Guang classmate beat up Xiaoi because of a personal grudge. Originally, I wouldn't participate in this kind of thing, but today I want to get justice for Xiaoi. This should be the young lady that Xiaoi said beat up more than 20 people last time. From Xiaoi's evaluation of you, I can feel that you are very strong. How about this, let's have a fight. If you win, the past will be written off. If I win, Chi-Yu will come with me, and I will do whatever I want. Ming Ming smiled and said, Sister, there is something I have to say in advance. It doesn't matter if we fight, but I can only represent myself, not him. I and Chi Yu are friends, and I can't make decisions for him. Please. Although Chi Yu was a ruffian, he was also Kirin. Even if it was Hairyue, she couldn't ignore Chi Yu's safety. Modi said indifferently, Then please. If I defeat you, I think no one can stop me from taking him away. The two beauties with different styles looked at each other. Chi Yu, Vol, and Yan Xiaoi respectively retreated in two different directions. Ming Ming slowly stretched her arms to the sides of her body, while Modi made a strange posture. He raised his palms in front of him, palms facing outwards, as if he was trying to resist. The two stared at each other, and the first to move was still Ming Ming. Ming Ming's body swayed, and in an instant she closed in on Modi. Her left hand protected her chest, and her right hand swept towards Modi's shoulder. Modi didn't move forward, but retreated instead. The speed at which he retreated was no slower than Ming Ming's forward momentum. Her legs moved in an instant, and her right leg was like a long whip. She was wearing a leather shoe, and the tip of her shoe was pointing at Ming Ming's right wrist. Her judgment of time was not good, and it was as if Ming Ming's hand was sent up for her to kick. Ming Ming was obviously not so easy to deal with. Her right arm stopped for a moment, and her right shoulder was pulled back, and the edge of her palm was raised, and it instantly collided with the tip of Modi's shoe. With a muffled bang, Ming Ming and Modi's bodies swayed at the same time. The two women's eyes revealed a trace of surprise. The next moment, Modi had already risen into the air, and her legs were like illusions, crisscrossing and kicking towards Ming Ming. Her movements were so fast that Chi Yu couldn't tell how many kicks she had kicked in an instant. Ming Ming's hands were not slower than Modi's. Her feet stood in the same place without retreating. She retracted her hands, and used her arms to block Modi's attack. For a moment, a low sound of collision was heard. Chi Yu could clearly feel the airflow blowing towards him, and he couldn't help but be secretly surprised. The attack between them was obviously not as simple as ordinary punches and kicks. He didn't expect that Yan Xiaoi had such a powerful cousin. She really deserved to be the national champion of Taekwondo. The movements of the two women were getting faster and faster. Gradually, only two figures could be seen flying. Suddenly, Modi's kick missed, and it happened to hit a tree with the thickness of the mouth of a bowl. What made Chi Yu and Vol dumbfounded was that in the clear sound, the upper part of the tree flew out horizontally. The fracture was unusually neat, and it looked like it was cut in an instant by a knife. Oh my God! If such a leg was kicked on a person, what would happen? Chi Yu had a burst of fear in his heart. Turned out that martial arts could really be so strong. Ming Ming could actually use her arms to block such an attack. Was her arms made of iron? With a muffled bang, the two women's lightning-fast figures quickly separated to the sides. Ming Ming's face had a touch of redness, and her arms were still stretched out horizontally. Looking at Modi's legs, her eyes could not help but show a trace of admiration. Modi also looked at Ming Ming in amazement. In the beginning, her attack was only tentative, and she only used 30% of her strength. But as the battle between the two became more and more intense, she almost used all her strength in the end, but her fast legs still couldn't break through Ming Ming's solid defense. This was the first time that Modi encountered such a situation. There was an old saying, no matter how thick an arm is, it can't beat a thigh. But in this situation, it was obvious that Ming Ming's arms had blocked her super leg attack. You are very strong, but you have to be careful next, Modi said calmly. She had already lifted her right leg, bent her knee, and the tip of her foot was no longer as straight as before. Instead, she faced her shoe outwards, making a feint. Her eyes obviously lit up. Her long legs were her sharpest weapons. Ming Ming suddenly froze for a moment, and looked at Modi with a strange gaze. This is the leading star kick, also known as the rabbit kicking the eagle. Compared to your previous razor kick, this should be weaker. Modi smiled indifferently and said, "The rabbit can fight with the eagle. The weak are used to defeating the strong. This kick is not the other kick. Miss, just be careful." A layer of faint airflow began to revolve around Modi's body. The soil on the ground actually rolled along with it, and an invisible killing intent spread out. Modi was like an unsheathed longsword, looking for a flaw in Ming Ming's body. Ming Ming's expression was solemn. Her arms drew an arc in front of her body, and the light in her eyes became sharp. Her upper body slightly leaned forward, and her arms first gently shook, and then immediately straightened. "You also have to be careful. This is the iron wing feather blade technique. The wings are like the edge of a blade, and it specializes in breaking through defense." Looking at the two women who were about to launch an all-out attack, Chi Yu suddenly felt his blood boil. He stared at Yan Xiaoi, who was not far away, and said, "Soldiers against soldiers, generals against generals. Haven't you always wanted to find me for revenge? Then come. I don't have a brick today, so I'll let you see my skill with a beer bottle." As he said that, Chi Yu swung the beer bottle in his hand and smashed it on the big tree next to him. With a crisp sound, the bottom of the bottle broke, and glass was immediately revealed. In an ordinary fight, a beer bottle was one of the sharpest weapons. Yan Xiaoi was not afraid at all. With a cold snort, he took a big step towards Chi Yu. Vol was just about to come over, but was stopped by Chi Yu's eyes. "This is between me and him." Just as Yan Xiaoi and Chi Yu rushed towards each other, Ming Ming and Modi also launched their attacks at the same time. Modi jumped on the spot, and his body made a beautiful turn in the air. His previously raised right foot suddenly kicked out, and an invisible airflow came out from his foot, and unexpectedly kicked towards Ming Ming. Fortunately, the attack that she kicked out was invisible, or it would be enough to shock the world. It should be known that in this era, most of the internal martial arts had been lost. To be able to transform the internal qi into external qi to attack the enemy, it was not something that could be achieved by hard training. It required one's own extremely high talent, and with acquired hard work and the guidance of a famous teacher, it was possible to succeed. This attack method of releasing the internal qi was much more dangerous than the previous one. Ming Ming didn't dodge. His arms, which were stretched out to both sides, were raised slightly. Then, he instantly slashed in front of him. Similarly, an invisible air current surged out, and the air let out an ear-piercing tearing sound. Modi's face turned pale, and he took a step back. Meanwhile, Ming Ming's body swayed, and he only managed to stabilize himself after taking 2 steps back. At this time, Yan Xiaoi and Chi Yu's attention were on each other. When the two women were fighting, they also faced each other. This time, Yan Xiaoi had a good memory. When he was 3 meters away from Chi Yu, he had already jumped up, and a fierce roundhouse kick was aimed at Chi Yu's head. After all, he had practiced for a few years, and his basic skills were still very good. The first time he was beaten by Chi Yu, it was only because of the lack of experience. However, at this time, Chi Yu was not the previous Chi Yu. In his eyes, Yan Xiaoi's attack was not fast, and his forward momentum did not stop at all. Just when Yan Xiaoi's roundhouse kick was about to hit him, he had already closed in on his body. In a roundhouse kick, the leg was obviously the most powerful part, but when Yan Xiaoi kicked Chi Yu, it was only his calf, and the strength was relatively much less. Chi Yu's calculation was also a little wrong. The strength of Yan Xiaoi's leg was obviously a little stronger than he thought. His body shook, and he was suddenly kicked a few steps to the side, and the wine bottle that was originally aimed at Yan Xiaoi suddenly fell into the air. Modi and Ming Ming did not look at the fight between the two, and looked at each other. At their level, the difference in strength was very small. Even if it was just a moment of negligence, it was possible for the other party to take advantage of the flaw. Modi's eyes were full of splendor. "Give up, after all, you are younger than me, and you are still a little lacking. To be able to reach this level of martial arts is already very rare. I don't want to hurt you." Ming Ming smiled. I don't want to hurt you even more. To be able to use internal chi to launch an attack with Kuei Xing's kick, I am afraid there are only a few people in this world who can do it. In fact, when I saw your long legs, I already had some doubts in my heart. It is destined that we should not be enemies. Modi looked at Ming Ming with some surprise. She did not understand what Ming Ming meant. Suddenly, her expression changed slightly, and she lifted the tip of her foot and instantly kicked to the side. The sound of the wind broke through the air. The blade of the foot was invisible, and its target was Chi Yu. It turned out that during the simple conversation between Modi and Ming Ming, Chi Yu had already gained the upper hand in the fight against Yan Xiaoi. In terms of strength, although Chi Yu had rich fighting experience, he was still not as good as Yan Xiaoi of the Martial Arts University. However, he was now not only a ruffian, but also the heir of Kirin's bloodline. When Yan Xiaoi attacked Chi Yu for the second time, Chi Yu used his hands to block Yan Xiaoi's attack. This time, Yan Xiaoi suddenly felt that his legs were instantly numb, and at the same time, a scorching heat appeared in the crook of his leg, causing him to scream in pain. At this time, Chi Yu kicked his supporting leg, and immediately put him down on the ground. He raised the broken bottle in his hand, and wanted to stab Yan Xiaoi. Unfortunately, now Yan Xiaoi was not alone. Cousin Modi was next to him. With a bang, Chi Yu only felt a strong force coming, and the bottle in his hand had turned into powder. However, the huge force did not show any signs of weakening, and went straight to his chest. At the critical moment, Chi Yu sucked in his chest and abdomen, and shouted, "Come." The four-colored light on his chest flashed slightly, and before the invisible attack reached his chest, it instantly condensed into one, blocking the attack of the airflow. Despite this, under the huge impact, Chi Yu's body took 7 or 8 steps in succession, and he sat on the ground. What a terrifying leg strength! It was important to know that Modi was still 7 or 8 meters away from him at this time. Fortunately, Chi Yu had learned a few energy-dispelling techniques from Uncle Zhou after waking up. In addition, he had comprehended the 4-attribute return to 1 technique when facing the Xieji, which allowed him to unleash a certain amount of energy, so he was not seriously injured. Ming Ming's face changed, and she stood in front of Modi. "Stop," I said, "we are not enemies." Modi said coldly, "You and I aren't enemies to begin with, but he's different. Xiaoi is my uncle's only son, but because he was beaten by Chi Yu last time, he suffered from a terminal illness. Even if my uncle can't take revenge according to the law, I will seek justice for Xiaoi." After listening to Modi's words, Ming Ming couldn't help but be stunned. Even Chi Yu and Vol were stunned at the same time. The conflict between Chi Yu and Yan Xiaoi was actually because of a woman. Although he hated Yan Xiaoi very much, Chi Yu never wanted to kill him. "Teacher Modi, you need evidence to speak. Last time, I just hit him twice with a brick. At most, it was a concussion. He is still here. How can you say that he has a terminal illness? Don't frame me, or I will sue you for slander." Modi looked at Chi Yu coldly. "As a teacher, I will never lie. If it wasn't because of this, do you think I would be willing to care about your fight? Xiaoi, let him understand." Yan Xiaoi's eyes were filled with grief and indignation. He gritted his teeth and yanked off the hat on his head. F***ck, Chi Yu stared at Yan Xiaoi, dumbfounded. He couldn't believe his eyes. Although he didn't want to admit it, Yan Xiaoi was indeed much more handsome than him. However, the current Yan Xiaoi was full of strangeness. His black hair had turned white. Although it was trimmed very short, the layer of white was exceptionally clear. What was even stranger was that there were 2 more protrusions about an inch tall on his forehead. They looked like 2 horns, and the 2 horns and white hair completely destroyed his handsomeness. At this moment, Chi Yu understood why Yan Xiaoi looked at him with such hatred. "I didn't hit him with a brick, did I? Do I have such a strong ability?" Chi Yu looked at Yan Xiaoi and really didn't know what to say. Yan Xiaoi said angrily, "If you didn't hit me, do you think I had it before? After you hit me last time, I recuperated in the hospital for a whole month. During that month, my hair quickly turned white and I also grew these two protrusions. If it wasn't you, who could it be? Am I still a human now? My father used countless connections to find the best doctor in the capital to examine me, but he couldn't find anything. The two protrusions can't even be cut off. They are actually connected to my cranial nerves. If they are cut off, I will immediately die. Do you think I want to wear a hat every day? How can I meet people like this? Modi said coldly, you all saw it? Chiyu, I don't care how you did it. If you don't give me a reasonable explanation today, don't even think about leaving here. Chiyu was dumbfounded. How would I know what's going on? Explain my ass. Modi was furious. Just as she was about to hit him, she suddenly heard Ming Ming's bell-like laughter. She immediately glared at her and said, What are you laughing at? My cousin has become like this. Are you still making fun of him? Ming Ming laughed beautifully. She was a stunning beauty. When she laughed, she couldn't help but make the three men present a little stunned. Sister Modi, don't be angry. I naturally have a reason to laugh. In fact, I should congratulate you. It's rare to have two zodiac signs in the past. Modi and Yan Xiaoi didn't understand what she meant, but how could Chiyu not? He opened his mouth and said, No way. Ming Ming, are you wrong? Ming Ming smiled and shook her head. How can I be wrong? Yan Xiaoi's current appearance is clearly in the early stage of the awakening of the zodiac blood. I have experienced this kind of thing before. Sister Modi, don't worry. We will help Yan Xiaoi solve the problem, and we will do it immediately. Modi was a little puzzled and said, What do you mean? Why don't I understand? Ming Ming said seriously, In our Yanwang Republic, there are some special people. They are warriors who protect the East. Among these special people, the leader is called the Zodiac Guardian. They represent the ability of the Zodiac. This is a secret in the circle of guardians, but there are no outsiders here, so I am not afraid to tell you. Vol is Chi Yu's good brother. I believe he won't tell others. I know it's hard for you to believe my words, but I will prove it to you with facts. Yan Xiaoi is nothing. The Zodiac Guardian, the chicken, is a mutation of the Zodiac.